Dun, 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 dun.
I know I was headbanging and my earpiece fell out of my head, so and kind
Getting
of
older. That's what happens.
Oh, dude, I am
Birds. Hello, everybody.
Try
Hey,
headbanging.
Captain.
Look, when you're
gang.
older than
Guilty as
30,
charged.
it doesn't work.
No. I was thinking of going to some sort of death metal concert and diving into a mosh pit and seeing if I still had it, but I don't still have it. No. How's everybody doing?
No.
I see Hoopty in the house.
Yeah.
And Goldie.
Goldie's here.
Yeah.
Goldie's here. Hey, Goldie. Who's got the Stream Elements bot?
Me, but I don't know why.
Oh, okay.
Because
Very
it's not
cool.
really doing anything there except I had a StreamYard. I put the Stream Elements bot and the Nightbot bot, except the Nightbot bot is automatically like blocking spams and like if you put like a lot of exclamation points or emojis, it would just like it did that to Joe the other day, right? It just like, oh no, not on my watch. Boom. I'm like, no, not on my channel. Boom. And then I banned Nightbot from my channel.
Awesome. Yeah. I always put too many exclamations in there. That's funny. That's funny.
You're supposed to, hey, Dawn. Welcome, everybody.
Dawn.
Dawn's in the
Joni.
house. Joni,
Hi, everyone.
hello.
Oh, there's Dawn. Sorry, Miss Dawn there. Hi, Dawn.
I'm just popping everyone quickly
Yeah,
here.
no, absolutely.
That's good.
I'm going to tell you guys. I thought it might be nice if I got a God complex.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I was going to buy this large facility, multiple buildings, and name it God, and that would be my God
Oh,
complex.
that's fair. That's a
Literally.
God complex I can get
That's
a
behind.
literal God
The
complex.
literal kind.
Absolutely.
Although I think you should have the GOD stand for something,
But,
like an acronym.
Well, I haven't gotten that far yet, but it absolutely has to. Yeah.
It sounds
That'd
cool.
be even cooler.
Right.
I
The
I
D
like
could be
that kind of
Denver,
background.
right? The D could be Denver.
Could be.
yeah.
Good old Denver complex.
Good old. There
Hey,
you
Don.
go. There you go.
What are you gonna say, Chad?
I was driving to the waterfalls location yesterday, and I was driving through a little town, and there was this huge man. It reminded me of something like Heaven's Gate would pull off. There was this guy in the middle of the egress, middle of the thing. He had this huge sign. It says "Honk for Jesus," which is fine. But his van, he looked like a Heaven's Gate van. It was like crazy. I was gonna pull over and kind of tape it, but it was too busy, even for a small town. It was funny though.
Did
Honk
you
for
not
Jesus.
honk?
I didn't because I was so surprised, and no one was
Yeah.
honking. I think everyone was just. I mean, he was in the middle of the where he can get hit.
Oh.
Oh,
Yeah,
Say the red flag there was the van, right? You honk and then he chases you down and throws you in the van.
it was like a
then-
full size van, and he was the only one. I didn't see any other people around. Maybe they were,
Creeper van, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna get a bumper sticker that says "Blow the shofar for Moses." Kind of an inside joke there, but might work.
I get it
I-
though. Yeah.
I don't get it. Below the what now?
A shofar.
Sorry.
A shofar is is like a lamb's horn or ram's horn, depends. And
Okay.
it becomes a musical instrument, and rabbis
Okay.
blow it on Rosh Hashanah. So
Okay,
it's
thank
like
you.
instead of honking, blowing. Well, I mean, say blowing for Moses sounds a little weird, but I would say shofar for Moses is what I would say. So instead of honking for
Thank you.
Jesus, anyway,
Right.
it's a whole
Blowing
thing.
for Moses.
Shofar is a verb as well.
What was that? I'm sorry, Joe. What was that?
Shofar is a verb as well, Mark.
I just literally think I made it up. So
Okay. fine.
whether it is or not,
So
it
loud
just became
enough.
one.
Yeah. I don't know how I sound, but you are.
Hey, Papa Ron's in the
Cool.
house.
Hey,
Papa
Ronnie.
Ron.
Oi.
Commodore.
We salute you,
Um,
Ron.
We do. We salute you in text speech too, or chat speech, which is the 07.
We're ready to receive orders and obey.
Yeah. Ready for Target 2.
Hmm.
Have you guys seen my logo for my channel? It says the Scientologist off to Target 2.
Oh, I didn't see that part of it.
Getting ready to get there.
Mm.
Yeah, so blow
where he is.
for hug for Jesus, blow for Moses. And
Suck
what
for
else?
Satan? I don't know.
Okay.
I-
They should all have
I
one.
don't know what we would
different
do.
thing.
Salute for Ron. I guess salute for Ron would be the most appropriate, or clap for Ron, cheer for Ron, maybe. We should
Don't
cheer
they
for him.
say-
Hip, hip, hooray.
Is there an
Cheer
R
for
word?
Ron.
Yeah.
Cheer for Ron? Yeah.
Don't they
Hip,
say
hip.
to LRH?
Tell
hip.
her, hey,
Hip, hip, hooray. Hip, hip,
hooray.
hooray. Hip, hip,
Yeah.
hooray.
There you go.
Yeah. Not narcissistic,
Um,
because he's just the greatest, most intelligent man who's ever lived.
Nobody's questioning that. You heard that wrong.
He
Nobody's
has done
questioning
it.
that.
He has done it all.
Yep.
Because of
He
Ron,
won-
we have an
he
Air
won
Force.
World War II, didn't he?
He did it all.
He's a war hero,
Yep.
He was a war
according to
hero.
him.
Intergalactic war hero.
Hoopty, I think every day is the rapture day for some cult.
Yeah.
But then was interesting. She says, I saw a thing on Facebook that some sect was thinking the rapture was supposed to be last night. I have no idea what that is. If you have more information or anybody, please share.
hmm
All right.
Well, it obviously didn't happen.
What do you
Doesn't
think
look
of
like
the,
Unless
it.
it did, by the way, unless it did.
Oh yeah.
Does that
We're
mean
in
that
a
we were left here? We were on the other side? What happened? How does that
Okay.
work?
I don't know. Are we the 4400? I don't know. I
Something
don't
like
know.
that.
It's
I am
always a
not a
number.
part of the 4400.
The 4400 was a
wasn't it a
TV show.
series? It was a TV show.
Yeah.
But
The
didn't-
JW
didn't-
thing is 44,000, I think, right?
44,000. Oh,
The JWs, yeah, or for the JWs, it's 140,000 that go to heaven or something, and then everyone else is left behind, and then there's all that stuff with the Left
Hmm.
Behind series, and yeah, who knows?
Yeah, it's
But
a
you know,
weird
the way the
number.
world works, it
Was that the
probably
one
did
with-
happen, but nobody knows.
was Left Behind? Was that Kirk Cameron or was that the other guy? Was that?
I've forgotten. You know, as a Jew, I don't really watch Christian movies, especially ones where if I don't accept Jesus, I'm going to be rotting in hell because, of course, I killed Jesus.
did.
Kind of a bit of a turn off for me. I'm just, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
just a little, you know, just a little bit. But
So,
however,
I was just saying, like 4400 is a TV show. The JWs have a weird 44 something number too, and Joe's cult had the funnest number, which was 111,111. What? 111,111.
Hmm.
111,111.
It's easier to say
Nice.
like that, right?
666 is the
Yep.
number of the beast.
Yeah.
mhm. Hail
We're
Satan.
going on numerology here, pseudoscience numerology.
That's right.
Mhm, mhm.
So, Joe, the Commodore wants to know a little bit about you. Some background on Joe, please. He doesn't.
Well,
He's
the
not.
so-called Commodore can go fuck himself because I don't really want. um,
Oops. Okay.
Mic
okay.
drop.
Okay.
What do you think of my fancy lighting, by the way? On or off?
Very nice.
I
On?
don't
Okay.
know. Look good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so
I
background
think
on me.
he was wondering if you
Oh.
were in the Sea Org. Sorry, you were not in the Sea Org, were you?
No, I was never in your cult. I had some experience with a different one.
Yeah. So basically, Joe's another never in.
I
But
guess if you want to
we-
know more about my story, there's Marilyn's channel. It's probably a good place to start, but yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So Marilyn has a couple of interviews with Joe on her channel.
Mhm.
I think L. Ron Hubbard just wants to find your ruin so he can get you into Scientology. But
I was
don't
gonna
tell
say,
him
he-
that I
this
said
is
that to
and
you.
this is why
Yeah.
I say go fuck yourself. Yeah.
There you go. Hello, broken dishes. Look at you. Oh, fancy.
It's too far away from me right now, but it works.
Hey, Michelle.
Oh, hey, Michelle. Hi, Michelle. Broken
Oh,
Dishes.
Michelle.
Love that name.
Yeah, right.
Must be
Me
Greek.
too.
I see what you did there, Mark.
Yeah. It's my humor. It goes unnoticed. Little reference unnoticed, but yeah. And there's an MU, Elron. It's hard to key O up. It should be KEEP. You need to get a word clearing. It's
Ooh.
KEEP. Keep up. You can do some M1 later.
Keo up.
Yeah.
Michelle's got her own channel. If you guys haven't, if those in the chat or those on the screen have not subscribed yet, it's Mish Carp at MICHCARP. And she's started to do some she has some content that's already been there, and started to do some fresh new content. She was just on with Marilyn. Was that yesterday? And and the evening before was on with Pete Jensen. They have a little show they've got going on. So definitely check out Michelle. Michelle's got a cool history of her own too. So you definitely want to swing by her channel and learn more about Michelle Carpenter, our wonderful Discord superstar. So.
Yes.
Wonderful.
And lots to come, she says. So we're excited about that.
Since we're plugging, can I?
We can plug whatever we want.
Okay. I just wanted to plug my own channel because I am not putting the Scientology content that I intend to there yet, but I am putting out content, sort of. So we have already Sleeping with Steve-O, for those of you who want to sleep with Steve-O, and now you have Studying with me. So I've been going online a couple times a week. I'm going to try to go like 3 times a week, maybe on a more regular basis, to do some kind of, it's a technique called body doubling, in which you just sit down and study, and other people can do it too. So if anybody wants to join me, just to get something done, be productive, or to just chat while I study, the 25 minutes that I'm actually focusing on the focus print, I'm not going to be checking. Ideally, I'm not going to be checking the chat, but in the breaks, I will. So we can chat, we can study, we can read, you can clean your house, you can do whatever you want. I'm going to be trying to do that more often. And also, for anybody who's interested in the chatathon and watching anything from the chatathon, again, from the 3rd chatathon, and watching anything again, I have posted, I've clipped them and posted it in shorter clips. So you can go there, and if you feel, I want to watch just, for example, the bit with Laura FM. So you go there, and then you're going to find Laura's there. Some people are in more than one because, for example, Jackson entered and then Nora entered, but Jackson continued. So Jackson is going to be on the video that says Jackson, and on the video, a little bit on the video that says Nora. But at least when everybody entered, so we can hopefully it'll be easier if anybody wants to revisit or watch something they didn't watch during the day. And also the 10-hour live is there, like it's in Steve-O's channels and Chad's channel. And if anybody wants to watch on the watch hours, the 3 of us, me and Mark and Joe, are building watch hours. Joe already has the subscribers, so she needs just the watch hour, not just, but especially the watch hours. But Mark and I are slowly building ours. So if anybody wants to help me with watch hours, I also have a playlist with the 10-hour chatathon and all the clips. So it can serve a purpose of you actually wanting to watch something or share something, or if you just want to help with the watch hours, please check it out. Thank you.
Great update.
Yeah, I clipped out a load of stuff and put it in a playlist too.
Cool.
So, watch hours, please.
For my
Watch hours. Yeah,
For
definitely.
my-
Go ahead, Mark.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say definitely. Yeah, for I can't. You get the idea for Juliana, Mark, and for Joe. Definitely looking for those watch hours. So check out the playlist, check out the content that's in there. And we always say, just let it play and, put it on mute and go do stuff. It's interesting content. If you want to listen to it, listen to it. We're not telling anybody not to listen to it. But at the same time, feel free to, watch, view it any way you want. So we're not here to tell you any differently. And here's Mark's channel. Mark Turi is at Mark A. Turi. So yes.
I'm at 49 subscribers. So if I get to 50, maybe I'll do like a live Q&A or something, or we can maybe cut it out, like do a live Q&A next week, or we do part of it or whatever. I don't know. We'll do something special. And then I'm clipping a lot of stuff from our these podcasts, these Nerdy Bunch podcasts, and I'm putting them into 5 to 10 minute or sometimes more depending. And I also had a video up today. And also what else? Oh, I signed up to the buymeacoffee.com. So if you go to buymeacoffee.com/Mark A. Turi, which I sent a link in our messenger, if anybody wants to donate in that way, that's pretty cool. And I have a bunch of stuff up there if you'd like. But in addition to that, basically, I have clipped out stuff, and I'm getting along my way. About 80 views, 49 subscribers, and I'm over 300. 80 watch hours, 320-ish views, and then somewhere around 49 subscribers. So I could always do a little bit more. And then of course I'm running live on my channel right now. So if you have another tab open, come on over and say hello.
And if you haven't subscribed yet, maybe one of you can be the 50th.
Exactly.
Just need one more.
That's right.
And I got to 100. Woo!
Awesome.
Great.
I was on 90 I was on 98 for days. Like, it wouldn't change. And I was, when I started looking like 98, and then I got to 100. I'm very excited. I'm like, woohoo!
Very
So
cool.
Mark and I are very far away from monetizing or anything like that. But we appreciate the watch hours because they are many. So if and when we get there, they help. Michelle also says that she also has a playlist that's Mute with Michelle playlist for watch hours. So
Mute with
put it on
Michelle.
mute.
Fair. And a shameless plug for myself while we're all here too. Swing on over to @DenverStevo. I've got all of my content on there. If it's stuff that we as a group or in any of the groups have shared, I'll tell you go watch it on one of the other group members' channels, because as far as watch hours and all that go, I won't say I don't need it, but I don't need it to become monetized. So feel free. But we've got a lot of great content on there. Also, I am, for anybody who, for whatever reason, prefers Rumble, I'm in the process of copying my entire content library over to Rumble as well. So everybody will have an opportunity to watch if they're Rumble watchers. I figured I'd give them a little bit of an oomph. They've had a little bit of a hit here lately with some things going on. So I figured I'd swing by over there. Also got my own Buy Me a Coffee and my own what are those things called? Amazon wish list. So if you want to buy me candy, sparkling water, or 4K classic movies, those are all in my my wish list. And then there's always DenverStevo.com, which is my merchandise store. So swing on over and grab anything from the OSA tumbler. Oops, I'm off screen. The OSA tumbler. To the you can't see it from this camera angle, but the Sleeping with Stevo pillow. We got lots of good stuff. Great clothing, great merchandise, and all at what I think is a very reasonable cost. So, but anyway,
And Goldie said
we have an
that
important
tonight-
announcement, don't we?
What's that?
what did we do?
Mark,
Goldie!
you've just reached 50.
All
Oh,
right.
Yeah, yes.
fantastic.
Oh, yeah, I
Broken
was
Dishes
gonna-
at my 50 subscribers. So thank you so
Yeah.
much, Broken.
Congratulations.
That's great.
Appreciate
That's
it so much.
awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Broken Dishes.
So I'll do something fun on my channel. Some post a
Excellent.
video, or again, maybe we can figure it out to do some Q&A, and we'll talk. I'll talk about it with you guys afterwards
Sure.
on how to do that and things like this, because I'm still new and I still need some help and some advice from all my friends here. So yeah, but thank you so much, everyone. Yeah, thank you, Broken Dishes. Really appreciate to be my 50th subscriber.
That's
So
wonderful.
really cool. Thank you so
And
much.
now Chad can plug his channel if anyone wants any information on how to achieve.
Just this,
What?
just to finish Steve-O's, he has a show
Oh.
tonight. I just wanted to say this
Oh.
because I left this up.
Tonight at 9
Just
p.m. Tonight at 9 Eastern Time, we have a Xenu Nation. Going to be another great Xenu Nation. I'm looking forward to it. For anybody who missed out on Wednesday, when we actually introduced the new opening with Xenu live in the flesh. Well, not live in the flesh because it was recorded, but Xenu in the flesh, not like an animated picture of Xenu. There is Xenu.
So good.
Xenu is actually doing my intro now for Xenu Nation because it's his nation. So come on over, swing on over. 9 o'clock Eastern. What is that? 6 o'clock Pacific. You do the math if you're anywhere else. But yeah, it'll be a fantastic show tonight. It's been a busy week, so lots to absolutely talk about.
I'm
and
sorry,
if you're bad
Chad.
at maths
That's
like
okay.
me, just click the link and it will tell you.
Yep. In any event, don't forget to swing by if anyone's interested in the 10x lifestyle and how to achieve it. That can be viewed on Clearwater Chad's channel, along with Waterfalls videos on Drift Kill Zone, and Sidewalk Talks. Clearwater Chad has over 700 videos for your enjoyment.
Boo, Griff Calzone. Boo.
There has to be a villain, though. I know.
Boo.
I subscribe to Griff's 10x lifestyle. Can I get a refund there?
Ugh.
Griff doesn't like to give refunds.
Okay.
You subscribe to the fake lifestyle, to the fake that
I didn't know at the
Griffer is
time.
he's a.
I was just looking for my place, and Griff was there.
And then you found Chad. Chad is where it is. Clearwater Chad is
Thank
it.
you.
That's right. So, what's today all
So-
about, everybody? What are we doing? What are we what are we talking about?
Well, I got me a PowerPoint, one of my
Ooh.
famous PowerPoints, and
I love me
we're
a
going to
PowerPoint.
continue. We're going to continue from the past couple weeks.
Good.
So 2 weeks ago, of course, I did a PowerPoint on the different, the different stuff about religious studies and sort of some information there about the history and contemporary stuff and all that development and whatnot, and what sort of constitutes a religion, and that's kind of complicated. And then last week, of course, I went into the different theological stances and how, again, it's not just one or nothing, and how we try to carve out some kind of nuance and middle and so on. So this week we're going to talk about the many varieties of non-theistic religions and secular philosophies. So some of the stuff when I mentioned non-theistic religions, we did touch on some of them just by name and a little tiny bit on description 2 weeks ago during the religious studies video, but we're going to expand on that more. And then we're going to get into secular philosophy. So we're going to talk about a whole bunch of different stuff. And as I always like to start off by saying is, I might add some thoughts here and there about certain things that I've heard, and maybe certain things that I necessarily don't think pertain to certain ideas or whatnot. But as always, everything we say here is opinion. Also, the definitions that I'm giving for these words do not negate any other definitions. So these are simply official definitions you'd find in the dictionary, or you might find in a philosophy dictionary or something of the sort. But there's also colloquialisms, which means people have an informal speech and they might know a word informally, and that's totally okay too. And so the whole thing is to just bring people with, a variety of options. And that's where we're going to start today with, with these different ideas. And so as we see here, what does it mean, first of all, as we get into this? what do I mean when we talk about non-theistic, religions and secular philosophies? The first thing is we have to define the word non-theism. So last week we talked about non-theistic views of God, and we were talking about how in those views of God, God is not necessarily personal. There is an overlap to this week, because there is this idea of not having, a personal God or gods, um, in part of non-theism. But essentially, what I mean by this is that non-theism is a range of both religious and non-religious attitudes characterized by the absence of a espoused belief in the existence of a personal God or gods. So this week, when we talk about non-theistic religions and secular philosophies, we're going to be dealing with ideas that either don't espouse a belief in a god or gods, or they might reject the idea of God or gods. And there are many of them, and they are, across cultures. Many of them are popular. Some people and some groups, there's a lot of misinformation about some of these things. And so what we're going to do is just break down, these ideas and try to look at this from the perspectives that I normally do, which is to look at gray areas and to look at middle ground and so forth. So just think when we're talking about non-theism, it just either doesn't, the philosophy or the idea either doesn't have anything to do with God, so it's about something else, or there could be a rejection of that concept. And either way, it's totally fine. And here are just some varieties. So the first one, a little cut off again, sometimes this happens, but the first one is the term agnosticism. So what is agnosticism? The more colloquial term for agnosticism is just when somebody just doesn't know something. And again, that's totally fine. This became very popularized maybe 15 years ago plus, when a new kind of, theological perspective was kind of coming out with the book The God Delusion, by Richard Dawkins. And it's interesting because agnosticism actually does mean something, but it is also kind of been erased from some history, some sort of free thought and secular history in the United States, which I don't like. So I'm just going to kind of get into my soapbox kind of gripe here. But it's just, again, it's just fine if people disagree. It's just my opinion. But agnosticism, of course, is defined as the belief that the nature and existence of God or gods is unknown and inherently unknowable due to the nature of subjective experience. The first person who coined this phrase was a gentleman named Thomas Huxley, and this was back in the 19th century. And he founded this as a middle ground between theism and atheism. The thing that's become popular within the past 15 plus years has been kind of an interesting development among some people in the what's called the new atheist movement, albeit they don't, like, not every atheist is a part of the new atheist movement. But it's kind of the idea that they've kind of switched and they've kind of changed on agnosticism. So they might look at people like Thomas Huxley and another person called Robert Ingersoll, and certainly other people like even Charles Darwin called himself an agnostic. And they might look at that as saying that they are somehow like secretly atheists, or that they created this term to hide their atheism, to sort of make it neutral. A lot of this idea comes from a historian who I'm very critical of, and her name is Susan Jacoby. She's written lots of books about the history of free thought and so forth. Free thought is another term we'll get into later. But unfortunately, according to people that are Huxleyan and people who, have read primary sources, it doesn't actually seem to be that agnosticism was ever supposed to be just a way to ignore or whatever someone's atheism. So this is why this definition, this official definition, is that it's a belief. Before I get into the types of agnosticism, I will say that there's another kind of popular thing that's come up over the past little while that agnosticism is a epistemological stance, whereas theism and atheism are theological stances. However, again, if we go back to this actual definition, it's the belief that the nature and existence of God is unknown. So anything that has to do with God is automatically a theological stance. If agnosticism was an epistemological stance, meaning if it was about knowledge, then it would be addressing issues on like where knowledge comes from, how people can know things, and in the branches of philosophy, what we know as, you know, atheism, theism, and all the other stuff I talked about last time, pantheism, panentheism, is under the heading of metaphysics, whereas epistemology is different. Like agnosticism is not accepted as a form of epistemology. So it is in of itself a theological question. And it has become kind of popular to sort of change that. And again, there's certainly reasons why, and there's arguments why, but at least officially speaking, if somebody asks you, do you believe in God? Okay. And you can say, I don't know. it's not necessarily a bad thing to say that. It doesn't make you anything, as we talked about middle ground last time. We talked about having middle ground and looking at nuances. So again, if somebody proposes to you this kind of cut and dry, you're either one thing or another, agnosticism is a good launching point for the middle ground. Now, even if you don't believe in it or accept it, it's still a good middle point. So that's just the first part. Now I want to get into the different types of agnosticism, because like everything, there are different types. Okay, so the idea that um, there are different types. Okay, so the types of agnosticism are as followed. So the first is called strong agnosticism, and this is the view that the question of the existence or non-existence of God or gods is unknowable. And someone who is a strong agnostic would say when it comes to God or gods, they would say, I don't know, and neither does anyone else. So this, of course, implies that not only did they not know whether or not God exists, but there's simply no knowledge anyways to deduce whether God can exist or does exist. And so nobody else has knowledge, okay, about that. So it is the strongest take on agnosticism. In contrast to this, we have mild agnosticism. And this is the view that the existence or non-existence of God or gods is unknowable, but is not necessarily is unknown. I always misread that one. Mild agnosticism is the view that the existence or non-existence of God or gods is unknown, but is not necessarily unknowable. So if someone is a mild agnostic when it comes to God or gods, they might say, I don't know, but maybe someone else does. So even though they can admit that they are not sure whether or not a God or gods exist, it's not out of the realm of possibilities for another person to have some kind of knowledge. So it is unknown, but not necessarily unknowable. Another type of agnosticism is called apathetic agnosticism. And this is the view that since any god or gods that may exist appear unconcerned for the universe, the question is largely academic. And an apathetic agnostic would say, I don't know and I don't care, which I don't know. I find that to be very pragmatic in some ways and quite interesting. And then we get into these different types that are explained and expanded in books by the new atheists, which I think are good expansions and good combinations between agnosticism and theism, and agnosticism as atheism. The only thing is it's not the whole pie. It's just a piece of the pie. Okay, remember that some of these terms, like what we talked about last week, we have the definition of the ism, then we have the types of these definitions, but we have combination types as well. So agnostic is not just, for example, an adjective. It is also a noun. So it's just a larger scope. I'm not saying that people who believe in this, what do you say, this kind of I might say dichotomy, I guess, between Gnosticism and agnosticism, and then theism versus atheism. Again, you're not wrong. There's nothing wrong with believing in that, but there's just a larger issues and larger things that go above that. So the first type here is called agnostic theism, sometimes called spiritual agnosticism. So this is the view of those who claim not to know of the existence of God or gods, but still believe in such an existence. So this would be someone who says that they do believe in a God, but they don't know. So when it comes to believe, they do, but they still don't know. Agnostic atheism or secular agnosticism is then the opposite of that, although part of it is the same and part of it is the opposite. So this is the view of those who claim not to know of the existence or non-existence of God or gods, but they don't believe in them. So this has become quite interesting and quite popular over the past 15 plus years, because on one hand, you have people that say they either believe or they don't, which would be more of a subjective thing, based on their personal experience, their education, maybe their religious background, but they still don't claim to know for sure. So again, it's a combination of these two. I will also say that, again, someone, in my opinion, at least, can still be just agnostic. And just being agnostic doesn't mean you're hiding atheism or that you're, naive or something. But there's more going on than just, black versus white. So, these are kind of all the different varieties. And again, I want to sort of say that sometimes it's become kind of popular in these in certain circles to even remove the contributions that agnosticism has made to secular history. So, for example, there are organizations that talk about the development of atheism and some of the things we're going to talk about later, such as rationalism and skepticism and even humanism, but they don't look at agnosticism. And to me, that's, as a historian, more than anything else, as a historian, I find that to be very troubling that people are trying to sort of rewrite history. And so that's my main concern about, the development of agnosticism is just atheism, when, of course, I believe that it's different. And as a historian, I feel that, we should obviously look at people who are trying to rewrite history, point it out, and give better evidence, in my opinion. So that's all I wanted to say on that one, because again, it's complicated. But these are the different types. So the next one, of course, is atheism. And at least according to the dictionary definitions and the philosophy definitions, is that atheism, as just the word atheism, again, we're not getting into types yet, but that the word atheism is the belief that God or gods do not exist. And I know that there also is a lot of controversy on that word belief, right? Because it's the belief that God or gods don't exist. Now, there are other definitions that are probably more popular in certain circles that describe a certain type, which I'm going to get into after. But just like agnosticism, right? Atheism is a word that puts the A in front of something. So an agnostic is someone who, A, without gnosis, knowledge, and atheism is someone who is A, without theism, God. And because it kind of is an ism, it also implies some kind of practice or some kind of belief. And this is why, at least in dictionary terms, it is the belief that God or gods do not exist. There's also other definitions about, is it a philosophy? Is it a doctrine? Is it an idea? What really is it? Some people will even claim that atheism is not even a thing, because it's just, the absence of a belief in God. And certainly I'm going to get into that in the next slide. And again, please understand, they could be correct. This is something that we need to, talk about a little more, and to figure out the different types of these words. But there are a few different types of atheism. So the first type is called strong atheism. And this is used to describe atheists who accept that God or gods do not exist, or that there is no God or gods. So in this case, they make a strong, and I'll use the word claim, that God or gods do not exist and that there is no God or gods. Sometimes this can be overlapped with what is called Gnostic atheism, which is again goes back to that quadrant of belief and knowledge that has been popular over the past 15 years or plus. And so this is the idea that one can know that God does not exist. So they make this strong statement, okay? However, on contrast to that, and I find that this definition is often in some cases replacing um, the actual like term or the actual word for atheism in general. So this is called mild atheism, and this is defined as the lack of a belief. We could also say the absence of belief in God or gods. And many times this form of atheism is overlapped with agnostic atheism. So there are plenty of organizations, including the American Atheists. They are a civil rights organization that are there to protect the civil rights of American atheists. And they actually define atheism as the lack of absence of a belief in a God. So according to their community, they have accepted that quadrant of gnosis, agnosis, theism, atheism, and they have defined atheism as simply a lack of a belief. And so again, they are not wrong at all. It's just that this is their definition is one type within a larger segment and with a larger, they have one piece of a larger pie. And so I do find that this is the most mild form of atheism. I have plenty of friends who would profess this form of atheism, just saying, look, you know, they just lack belief. They just don't, or they don't hold a strong belief either way, but they don't really know in the end. And certainly, when it comes to different secular, when it comes to different non-theistic religions, and again, we'll get into that later, especially in the United States, many people that might be atheists, but they might have some loose religious affiliation in Judaism or Buddhism or Unitarianism or something, probably would accept this type of atheism. It's just a lack of a belief. In contrast to that, we also have apatheism. This was popularized by Sam Harris and is also something that Bill Maher also says that he believes in. And this is essentially so apatheism, so apathy towards God. And this holds indifference and the lack of interest in problems of God and religion. Generally, the statement would say something like, and I've heard Bill Maher and Sam Harris say this, like, we'll never know for sure whether or not there is or isn't a God, so who cares? Or so, what does it matter? Or whatever. So again, we can kind of look at it as overlapping with apathetic agnosticism. And certainly a lot of these types are going to have some overlap because in the end, if there's no way to prove something, some people will just they'll just say, hey, listen, there's no evidence either way. And then some people say, yeah, will be no evidence either way. There never will be. And so who cares? And certainly those are different types of depending how vigorous someone is within their belief system. But certainly I'd say that those are sort of, two sides of the same coin, so to speak. The next one is called anti-theism. And don't really need to explain what this means. Anti means the antithesis of theism, of God. And this is defined as the complete rejection of all varieties of theism. So again, if you think of last week, so rejecting all of those isms, and believes that the belief in God or gods are not only detrimental to human society, but also detrimental to human development. This is the most extreme form of atheism. For example, all anti-theists are strong atheists, but not all strong atheists are anti-theists. I have encountered many strong atheists among my affiliations with humanist, atheist, and skeptic groups, which I just personally don't affiliate with anymore. And I kind of came up with a term that kind of got me removed from some of those groups, which is I like to call them anti-religious fundamentalists. And I do see them to be very similar in mirroring a lot of zealousness and stubbornness and lack of open-mindedness than a religious fundamentalist. I just don't think that, in my opinion, and especially what we talked about 2 weeks ago with religious studies, that we can really make a claim that God alone is detrimental to human society and human development, because again, religion in of itself is extremely complicated. Of course, we can point to the Crusades. Of course, we can, point to colonialism. Of course, we can point to those things. But as someone who knows a lot about the history of communism, and communism was at the least atheistic, but at the most anti-theistic, Stalin, who, whether we like him or not, again, I'm not saying his views were congruent with all atheists. I would never say that, because that would be wrong. But Stalin was an atheist, and he, killed 25 million people, and so was Mao, and he killed 65 million people. So, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, okay, but that doesn't reflect all atheists. It's just that is an anti-theistic position. And so if we're going to point the blame, all I'm saying is we can point the blame at someone, and then we can point the blame back at ourselves. So if we're going to blame the Crusades, we can also blame something else. And then it just goes into a spiral. And at that point, we're not getting anywhere. So instead of pointing blame about who kills who and who did, that's sort of the thing. So again, anti-theism tends to be the most radical form of atheism, which for someone who knows people that are more mild atheist, they will almost always say that when they define their atheism, they separate themselves from anti-theists. And I guess they kind of have to do that because in some circles, especially religious ones in America, many, many people think that all atheists are anti-theists. That's completely untrue. It's absolutely not true. Many people think that all atheists are against religion. That's absolutely not true. But it is the voice of a minority. And unfortunately, loud minorities are louder than quiet majorities. So I found myself in some of these groups kind of going back to the idea that although most atheists are probably somewhere around the mild apathetic definition, unfortunately, there are always people who ruin everything for the rest of us, and those are the anti-theists. Which really stinks because someone's beliefs does not determine, or lack thereof do not determine, what type of person they are, or in my opinion, their morality or anything else. Okay, so the next one we're going to move on to is Confucianism. I mentioned Confucianism a couple weeks ago, and I wanted to give a different definition of what Confucianism actually is and what it believes. So this is our first non-theistic religion. So Confucianism is a system of thought and behavior originating in ancient China. It was founded by Chinese philosopher Confucius, who lived from 551 to 479 BCE. It has been called a tradition, a philosophy, a religion, a humanistic or rationalist religion, a way of governing, or a way of life. It involves ancestor worship as well as human-centered virtues and peaceful living. So there's, Confucianism again originates in China. It is considered an ethnic religion of the Han Chinese people because Confucius was a Han Chinese person. And there are some maybe polytheistic or ancestor worship elements to this religion, but the actual Confucianism itself does not teach anything about God or gods. So when the people bring their polytheism or their ancestor worship or even other superstitious practices into Confucianism, it's usually a cultural thing that's separated from the actual Confucianism. Confucius taught about, if anyone has ever done martial arts, you will know the student-master relationship. Okay, the student-master relationship, which permeates through all of the Asian continent, just China, but also in Japan and Korea and stuff, has really a big part of Confucianism that a student needs a master, the master has knowledge. There's also this idea of the sins of the father. So if someone's grandfather or father does something bad in society, the punishment is carried out to their children and to their grandchildren. It's not 100% practiced, of course, today in China. China has definitely, you know, removed itself at least, or have tried to, from its Confucius roots since the founding of communist China, but it's still a big part of their culture. And as I said, the teachings in and of themselves really don't talk about God or gods. So, and on the picture, of course, on the right is a statue of Confucius. And when you think of Chinese culture, Confucius is a big part of that. The next is the concept of free thought. So, what is free thought? Well, some of the first organizations that got together, especially in the United States and in England, where secular people wanted to get together and have a service, for example, on a Sunday, they wanted to get together and build communities, were called free thought. And free thought is an epistemological viewpoint, again, going back to the word epistemology here, which holds that beliefs should not be formed based on authority, tradition, revelation, or dogma, that instead beliefs should instead rather be reached as by other methods such as logic, reason, and empirical evidence. When I talked about people like Charles Darwin and Robert Ingersoll and Thomas Huxley, they were also proponents of the free thought movement because they believed at the time, which was true, that in the US and in England, that the Church of England, the Catholic Church, these big established Protestant Catholic churches, were basing their knowledge on authority of priests and clergy, the traditions that had been around for thousands of years, and of course religious revelations and dogmas. So as the scientific revolution began in the 19th century, this new idea of logic and reason and empiricism started to form, although some of them had taken root in the 17th and 18th century. But by the 19th century, the scientific revolution was definitely changing what we think of knowledge. And the free thought movement was saying, okay, if we know something, it's not necessarily because it comes from God or it comes from a priest. It's because it can come from nature. It can come from our sense of reason, what we see, what we experience through science. And so again, some of the first groups call themselves free thought. And oftentimes when there are non-religious people who want to gather in communities in very religious, especially fundamentalist religious or dogmatic religious nations, they often call themselves free thinkers, simply because it is a way for them to be secular and to, maybe be skeptical and so forth. But free thought seems not to anger certain religious authorities as much as the word atheist, which to me is just sad because that shouldn't be. But unfortunately, there is a lack of human rights when it comes to non-believers and atheists and agnostics and so forth. And so in places like Indonesia and other places like this, they can get together, but they can't call themselves atheists, so they call themselves free thought or free thinkers. And the last thing I want to say about this was in the 19th century, and 18th and 19th century, there was a group of free thinkers in Germany that left Germany and immigrated to the United States. And many of them developed what they called free thought communities, one of which is in Chad's neck of the woods in Buffalo, New York. Another one is in St. Louis, and all over the Midwest. So these German free thinkers were not getting along with the established churches. And just like, we talked about last week and the week before with Baptists and Quakers and Mennonites and so forth, they found solace in the United States of America. And they also began a lot of different organizations, which they also titled Free Thought. The next secular philosophy or non-theistic religion, because it can be both, is humanism. Now, humanism has its roots in the Renaissance, and back then it was a cultural movement. It had to do with art, had to do with writing, and many of the people that were involved in that movement were Catholics. However, they had a particular interest in nature and science and sort of some rational thinking. And then in the 18th and 19th century, those free thought communities that I mentioned started to form what they called free associations. So free thought movements, free what are called free religious, free religious, free religious congregations, excuse me, and other associations where groups of religious people and non-religious people got together, and instead of having a ritual heavy kind of community or service, many of these individuals began to center on what they all had in common. So if you think of a group of believers and non-believers, theists, atheists, agnostics, deists, Buddhists, Unitarians, etc., they all get together to on Sunday morning, and they're not going to necessarily agree about the God or theological questions or whatever. So what do they all have in common? Well, they're all human beings. And so humanism started as just that. So the definition of humanism is that it is a philosophy that believes in a human-centered rather than a supernatural approach to life. It has ultimate faith in humankind and believes that human beings possess the power or potentiality of solving their own problems. 2 weeks ago, I mentioned two religious humanist groups called the Ethical Culture Society, and then later would be the Unitarian Universalists. Well, many Unitarian congregations in the 19th century in America, and as the Ethical Culture Society started to develop, that's exactly what they were. They began as free thought organizations that moved into free religious congregations. And it was just a place for people to meet, people to gather. Probably God was not really mentioned, religion was not really mentioned. It was a private matter. It was also a place for people who were atheists or agnostics to also come and enjoy a service. Because, of course, back in the 19th century, going to a weekly service was a big part of someone's life. And they didn't necessarily want to, remove that community aspect from their lives. So this is how it started. So today, humanism has two different branches. The first is, of course, secular humanism, and the second is religious humanism. Both of them believe in the definition of humanism that I read prior, but they differ on the role of religious rituals. So while these congregations that were Unitarian and Ethical Culture, and then eventually Unitarian Universalist, began as religious congregations, they held religious rituals, meaning that they lit candles and they might have had some kind of religious ceremony. In the early 1960s, a gentleman named Paul Kurtz decided to take the humanist philosophy and say that they could have their services and their communities, even things like weddings and funerals, but they didn't want to have religious rituals. And so, right there, again, humanist groups believe in humanism. One has religious rituals, one doesn't. So today, secular humanism is probably more known as just humanism, but of course, there are also religious humanist communities, mostly in the United States and Canada and Great Britain, but there are chapters of other things all over the world. I would say that secular humanism is probably more global because Unitarian churches and ethical culture societies are not worldwide. They're in some parts of Europe and some parts of Australia. But if you go globally to places like India and Africa, you're mostly going to get secular humanism. The next one here, again, a little cut off. I apologize. This is what happens when we transfer from PowerPoint to Google Slides, but no big deal though. So this is a stance that I also really like to get into and enjoy, and it's called ignosticism. So we have agnosticism is without gnosis, and ignosticism. Okay, the ig stands for ignorance. So agnosticism is the view that a coherent definition of God or gods must be put forward before the question of the existence or non-existence of God or gods can be meaningfully discussed. When asked, "Do you believe in God?" an agnostic will reply, "What is God?" So, according to an agnostic, if you say, "Do you believe in God?" Okay, what is God? So then, okay, is God the gigantic man in the clouds? Is God part of the universe? Is God above the universe? Are there two gods? Are there 12 gods? Are there three? Like, an agnostic would say that they're ignorant. They're ignorant of God because they don't know what you mean about God. And so they'll say, "What is God?" And then if someone gives them a definition, like, "Do you believe in the gigantic man in the sky?" They may say yes or no. So it's just a way, in my opinion, um, if you ever notice someone, because I've done this a couple of times, who has that us versus them, black versus white mentality. There's two sides to this coin. You're either going to say yes or you're going to say no. When you say what is God, it, it kind of is like a Socratic method thing, because they're expecting you to say yes or no. But if you say, "Well, what is God? What do you think God is? Or what do you think God isn't?" And what it does is, I think, is it opens up the conversation to ambiguity. And it kind of is something that's good to start off a conversation, especially if the person just wants you to say yes or no. Because going back to last week and the week before, these are not yes or no questions. It really does depend on what someone else's and or your definition of God or gods is. So just tell me what you mean, and then we can have a discussion. So this is the idea of being ignorant about God until a definition comes forward. Another one we're going to talk here is Jainism. The last time we spoke about Jainism as a form of autotheism, this idea that divinity can be internal or external, but that essentially there's some kind of godlike quality that people are getting to. And so this is one of the religions called Jainism. It's a non-theistic religion, and it was founded in India about the same period as Buddhism. It was established around 599 to 527 before Common Era by someone named Mahavira, who was born near Patna in Bihar, India. And Jain monks, they take vows of nonviolence, truth, not stealing, chastity, and non-possessiveness. The photo on the right are Jain monks. They live what's called an ascetic lifestyle. If you know anything about the history of Buddhism, you'll know that Buddhism is supposed to be the middle path between indulgence and asceticism. Indulgence means taking too much, living greedfully, but asceticism is doing what Jain monks are. And Jain monks are ascetists or asceticists, essentially. They often go without eating. They have almost nothing, and the Buddha saw that as detrimental to enlightenment. So Jainism again outrightly rejects the idea of creator gods. It outrightly rejects the concept of the Christian or Jewish or Muslim God, and yet is still considered a religion for many other different reasons. It's a debate on whether or not Jains even believe in a soul. They do believe and have some kind of reincarnation, but again, even that is kind of debatable because they're their own religion and they have their own way of looking at things that cannot necessarily be compared to Hinduism or Buddhism. So they have their own thing going on. I think there's in the millions of followers in India. But again, complete rejection of gods and creator gods. They're just not on the journey with us. So a lot of times throughout the years, Jainism has been characterized as an atheistic religion. The next one is naturalism. So somewhat self-explanatory, I think, here. Naturalism is the belief that nature is all that exists, and that all things supernatural, including gods, spirits, souls, and non-natural values, therefore do not exist. So if we think of supernaturalism, right, we may think of gods and so forth. We may think of the supernatural. We may think of I'm just going to take a drink. One moment. I'm sorry. Forgive me, the getting dry. But yes, and that's true. Nature is. I get that reference. So if we think of supernaturalism, we might think of things like what? Gods, souls, spirits, psychics, werewolves, vampires, superpowers, Marvel characters, Batman villains, and so forth. This is the opposite of that. This just says the world is natural. It's a natural place. This is one of the things that we talked about last week was naturalistic pantheism. I said, of course, that it believes that matter is natural. Although it could be considered mystical in some ways, it is natural. I do like a middle ground here. I'm going to introduce you to a middle concept because, again, a lot of times people will say, well, do you believe in the natural or the supernatural? Whether or not this is true or not, this is just the third option. So the third option is called transnaturalism. Of course, trans, that prefix means above. That's all, or beyond. So when someone is a transnaturalist, they would probably believe in something like, I mentioned before, deism, pantheism, or panentheism. God in those ideas, those non-theistic views of God, is not supernatural. So it's not a supernatural magic man in the sky who does things. It's more of a force, and that force may transcend nature, but it's in between. It's the third option between absolutely nothing and a supernatural man. So transnaturalism just says that there can be transcendence in nature that can go beyond nature. And if you are American and you live in New England, you might know the Transcendentalist movement. In America, the Transcendentalist movement was a big proponent of transnaturalism. So you can read a lot of great works by Walden and Emerson and Alcott and all these wonderful authors if you want more. So again, saying, well, there's either gods, fairies, and werewolves, or there's nothing. Again, not saying that this is true or not, but there is a third option. Yes, Julia?
May I just ask you a
Julia?
question? Above or across? Because trans, I think, is across, not above. It's not
Usually
over. It's
that goes beyond. Goes beyond. That's what we
okay,
mean when we
but
say
it's
like
not.
trans.
Because for me, the notion that I have of the prefix trans is like it crosses over from one side to another of something, which makes sense with the
That's true.
definition you're giving. But when you said above, I'm thinking above in my mind. Maybe it's my foreign language mind. When you say above, I think it's like superior to, and I don't think that's the idea that trans is like across or beyond maybe. But you know what?
Well,
Do you understand my question?
you're. I think you're right more than I was right. Maybe I missed that one. But yeah, across as opposed to because usually when we say like trans something, it usually means to go beyond it. But yeah, maybe in this case, going across it. They can be both kind of similar in some sense because
Mm-hmm.
like supernaturalism, I guess, because it's defined in a certain way. Like when we think of the supernatural, we think of things that are above nature, but they also they don't act within the laws of nature. When something
Mm-hmm.
is transnatural, it might be above nature, but it does still act within the laws of nature. And I
Okay.
think it's because we have the word supernatural. We don't usually have that word super as a prefix very often. It seems to be very like, superpowers, right? Or
Like
we don't
extra.
have like, yeah, exactly, exactly. So I think in this category, it's probably a mixture of going
Because
across
that's
and beyond.
that's what I was getting. Like you said, the
Yeah,
middle ground. Like
yeah.
you're okay. Thank you.
Super in this case would be like superseding it.
Yeah.
Going so far beyond it that it's not familiar to us. So if we think of spirits like a ghost coming to your house, it's like that would be from a different reality and a different world. You know what I mean? Like that would be part of a different thing altogether. And of course, they can fly and they can move through walls because that's what people can't do. But transnaturalism would just be something different in that
As
case. Hope that clears that up. Yeah, but that's a very good question.
Just to be clear, as a prefix, the Oxford Dictionary identifies trans as across, comma, beyond.
Okay.
So it's both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Transcending. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that word clearing, Steve-O. I
My
duplicate
pleasure.
you utterly. So we are supposed to make commands in that. So you'd make a good course supervisor, Steve-O. Not that that means anything, but you would.
And I
Also,
watched Chris. I think
I'm
it was
gonna
Chris Shelton's explanation of duplication the other day. I'm like, oh, I duplicate. I'm getting that a little bit better
Duplicate
now.
you utterly.
I've been trying for years, but there's never anybody in the Denver org, so I just can't. Nobody will sign me up.
Poor Steve-O. I'll fly to Denver with an e-meter. We'll get going.
That'd be great. That'd be great. Do you have one of those like fancy ones? One of the gold ones?
Oh God, I don't even have an e-meter, but I'll find one somehow. We'll find one on eBay.
eBay.
We'll do a Mark 1.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. So yeah, it's going to be a hoot. The next one here is called post-theism. Again, going back to our prefixes now, Steve-O, if you can word clear for me, but I believe in this case, post means after. So after something, so after God in this case. And post-theism is the belief that God or gods belong to a previous stage of human development, and that the division between theism and atheism is inherently obsolete. There are people who would say that a lot, like people like Karl Marx, was rather than being an atheist, he was a post-theist. And when I took a class, just give me a little while ago, in political theory and political philosophy, we were reading some Karl Marx's views on economy, but of course religion comes up. And the professor had said that although there was no term called post-theism in the 19th century, Karl Marx wrote from around 1848 until I think he died in like 1882. Someone again fact check me, but he wasn't necessarily an atheist. He was more of a post-theist, and it was just interesting because reading his views on religion from this perspective seems, in my opinion, to fit better than atheism. And so there's just a lot of people who would say, okay, post-theism. But that's just one interpretation. So think about after God, right? Post is after God. So what comes after? We could talk about post-religion. We could talk about post-secular. We can talk about all this kind of stuff. Now, what is rationalism? Rationalism is something that also has been fairly popular with the New Atheist movement from 2006 kind of onwards, although I do think it's taken kind of a dive a little bit in the past few years. But what is rationalism? Rationalism is also an epistemological stance. So rationalism is any view appealing to intellectual and deductive reasoning as the source of knowledge or justification, as opposed to sensory experience or any religious teachings. When someone is trying to stand for or communicates a rationalist perspective, it usually has to do with argument. So there's this idea that there are rational arguments that, if you say you believe in something, whatever it is, you need to have a rational argument. And that rational argument comes from whatever the current evidence is. So if you're forming a belief or an opinion, you have to make that statement, you have to make that argument, and then it has to be current to whatever the information is. And so there'll be a lot of people that say that, again, religious teachings are irrational because whatever reason they have. But again, rationalism is also something that comes out of the 18th and 19th century. And so it's quite a big thing. But in modern times, it's more of a philosophical position about arguing an argument. I will say, to disclose my criticism of this, just again to be well-rounded, is I actually tend to be the opposite. I tend to be what's called an irrationalist. I actually don't think that people always, and they can, but I don't think that people are always argue for reason and rationality. I think that in life there is a subjective quality, and that subjective quality is based on experience, it's based on feelings, it's based on our society. And so that, everything that one person believes in, yeah, some of those things might be quote unquote rational, but it's also subjective. So I tend to lean towards the irrational and the subjective, because that is more, I think, in my opinion, of what philosophy and even some, what we're kind of learning today. And it does fit into my pluralistic perspective, but again, can be totally wrong about that. Maybe by me saying that I'm an irrationalist, according to someone else, that is irrational. And so and maybe they just disregard it. And again, it goes back to debate. The next one here is scientific skepticism. This one is a very interesting position. So scientific skepticism is a position in which one questions the veracity of claims lacking empirical evidence. In practice, the term most commonly references the examination of claims and theories that appear to go, it should say, to go beyond mainstream science rather than the routine discussions and challenges among science. So for those who might be in a city or whatever, you might have a skeptics group or a skeptics society or skeptics association or whatnot. And what's really interesting about this is that skepticism is not a form of science. I know that it's a scientific skepticism, but skepticism is a philosophy. And it's actually a philosophy that's been around since the Greeks. And so, yes, in modern times, atheist groups, humanist groups, and skeptic groups have kind of formed groups like the Committee of Scientific Investigation, the Skeptic Society in California, the Skeptic Magazine. A lot of what they do, I enjoy. I don't love everything that they do, but they do a lot of good consumer reports. So they will try out stuff, products. They tend to debunk things like health scams. So they seem to be those that debunk certain things. But here's the real thing about this: is there are a lot of people that get into scientific skepticism as a way of thinking in some way that they are more, I guess, more around science, or that they're somehow like actually doing science when they get into these groups. And I know a lot of people who over the years, because I started in these groups in 2011 and I only ended a couple years ago. And again, it's just not true. They're not necessarily doing science, but they're doing skepticism, and that's totally okay. But the thing to note is that this is an epistemological stance. So there's a whole debate that has been running not just since the scientific revolution, but even in the past 10 or 20 years on whether science can even prove or disprove metaphysical questions. So when we talk about God, when we talk about the afterlife, we talk about, souls and spirits and whatever, that stuff goes beyond science because science is concerned with the natural world. And if there is anything beyond the natural world, then it wouldn't necessarily be in the realm of science. So scientific skepticism, as it says here, are looking at claims and theories that appear beyond mainstream science. So are they doing science? Well, they might be applying the scientific method to certain claims, but my thing would be, if that were true, then everyone who was a scientist would also be a scientific skeptic. And then everyone who was in a skeptics group would thus be a scientist. And that's not the case. The world over, most scientists are most likely have some kind of religious affiliation. Even in the United States, there might be some debate on that. But again, science and religion are kind of separate, and spirituality is separate. But in the end, they have done some very successful debunking as well. So of ESP, psychics, conspiracy theory. So it's not valueless. I just don't think it is as scientific as some people think it is. I think it's mostly a philosophical position, but again, a valuable one in many cases, because it does go hand in hand with some forms of critical thinking. And, critical thinking in general is also a very good skill. So, yeah, this is just a really interesting debate on, whether or not scientific skepticism if it's more a philosophy or is it more science, and what does it say about science, and so forth. So that's certainly something that online, and definitely there are groups that meet all over the world, not just in the United States, but all over the world will have some kind of skeptics group, and that's their position. We then have Taoism or Daoism, and I mentioned this again last week or the 2 weeks before. Mentioned the Star Wars connection here. George Lucas based the Force on Daoism. Again, it's not like the Force is Daoism, but it was definitely inspired. Daoism can be called a pantheist or panentheistic type religion. Here it says it's a set of Chinese traditions and religions which emphasize living in harmony with the Tao. The Tao is generally defined as the source of everything and the ultimate principle that underlines reality. It was founded in China by Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu, who lived during the 6th century BCE. So one of the big debates on this is like, is Taoism, is it a theistic? It is considered a non-theistic religion because the Tao is not God. The Tao is more like a force. And it's very pantheistic. Is it a form of theism? Is it not a form of theism? Those are really interesting. And the one thing I sort of think is, again, interesting about Taoism is it really, really walks that line, because obviously it is spiritual. Obviously, there is a spiritual component, but it is not the giant being in the sky. So yes, may the Tao be with you. And again, just if you've watched Star Wars, it's not to say like, oh, well, I watched all the Star Wars movies and now I'm an expert in Taoism. No, you're not. But there are some similarities, because from what I understand, in the 70s especially, um, George Lucas was very inspired, as he was, by the hero's journey with Joseph Campbell and samurai movies and so forth. So Taoism was one of the things that shaped the Force, and may the Force be with us all. Finally, Theravada Buddhism. Theravada Buddhism is a non-theistic religion, and it is Buddhism's oldest denomination. It points to no creator gods, but believes in what are called devas. Now, the interesting thing about these devas, which could be called gods in other traditions, like in Hinduism, for example, is that these devas, these beings in another dimension, are mortal. So while they live a long time, they won't live forever. That they're imperfect, so they make mistakes, and that they're unimportant to obtaining enlightenment. So the focus of Buddhism is to obtain enlightenment. It's not to worship God. When they pray, they don't necessarily pray to God, although I'm speaking in a Theravada sense because Mahayana is different. But this school of Buddhism is very popular in Thailand, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Cambodia, and Laos. And often Theravada Buddhist monks, as we see pictured above, this is a photograph from the mid 20th century, dress either in yellow or orange or brown. And so again, there are different schools of Buddhism, like in Mahayana, tends to be one very similar to Confucianism, brings different Chinese versions of gods or Japanese versions of gods. They have a whole different thing, but at least in Theravada, it's the most non-theistic of all the schools of Buddhism. So in this school, there's a complete rejection. And one of the stories about why the Buddha rejected this concept was something that I'm remembering from something I learned a little while ago. So if the details are a little funny, someone can please correct me. But the idea was, yes, because they're the cheapest dye. Yeah, exactly, during Buddha's time. Yes. Yeah, thank you so much, Joe. But that the idea was, when Buddha was obtaining enlightenment, he was meditating under the Bodhi tree. And at least from what I recall learning from Buddhist monks, was that when he was meditating, he went to these different levels of heaven and different levels of hell. And he was able to speak to and have conversations with these, demons or these devas. And a lot of them told Buddha that, they were imperfect and they, were subject to the rules of karma and so forth. And so, because Theravada Buddhism is the oldest one, they take that story of, well, Buddha went and did his traveling, I guess, his interdimensional traveling, talked to all these different beings, and they sort of explained to him that they're mortal, they're imperfect, and if one wants to obtain enlightenment, basically God's devas are just not a part of it. So I believe that was my last slide. Yes, it is. So yeah, so the whole thing about this is, again, it's a very diverse belief here, whether we have non-theistic religions or secular philosophies. It's all about middle ground. I don't begrudge or look down on anyone who might be, a part of any of these isms. If that's your personal experience, if that's who you are, one of the things I just want to conclude with is in the United States of America, there's surveys that happen once every decade or once every half decade on groups of people that Americans trust the most and then trust the least. And almost always, Americans least trust atheists and Muslims. And there's no reason, there's just absolutely no reason for that. It's just ridiculous because, again, it doesn't determine, whether you believe or lack of belief just does not determine someone's reliability or someone's morality. And so to me, it's just wrong when that happens, because again, I've personally known people whom I disagree with on those subjects who would challenge me on my definitions of whether it's atheism or agnosticism, and I would trust them more than fundamentalist Jewish settlers in Israel who are fucking it up for the rest of us. So people are people, and
I
that's
think.
all. So thank you guys.
Thank you, Mark. I think there's like a false idea that, or a false easy notion that if you don't believe in God, like God is good, if you don't believe in God, you're bad.
Yeah.
I think that's
Sadly.
the false parallel that they naturally make there. That's the impression that I get. I don't know if that's actually true, but
Yeah, and it's also, I know that happens obviously on a lot of different places in the world, but it's certainly something that like America has in common with like religious countries that aren't as wealthy as the United States. Because like you're in Western Europe, like non-religious people, there's a lot of people who aren't religious in Hungary. There's a lot of people who aren't religious in England or whatever. But when most Christians and people interact with people who aren't religious, it tends not to be a problem because the fundamentalist communities in those countries, they exist, but they're pretty small. But in America, it's just the opposite. And again, religious liberals may be higher in population in Europe countries, in Canada, for example, Australia, whatever, but they tend to be very small in America. And then those, very radically kind of fundamentalist religious types are more prevalent in America, but also in, countries like Africa and all across other places. And it's just strange because America is such a developed country, but on certain issues, it mirrors, what we used to call the third world or the low income nations. And who knows, maybe that'll change one day, who knows. But yeah, I'm hoping if there's any questions, also any comments, please let me know, because the whole point of this is obviously to talk and discuss and to clarify, and who knows, so maybe I put my foot in my mouth a couple times and I didn't realize it.
I think there's a whole load of ones that Juliana has started, so I guess if we go through those.
there are. I just want to start with this one. This is the last one, which is just thank you so much, Mark. That was very enlightening.
Thank you.
Just because
Thank you so much.
Thank
you.
Yeah, it was great.
Appreciate it. Yeah, thank you.
One, yes, it was great, and two, I want a full list of BJ's critters.
Do they come in card form like the Garbage Pail Kids? That's what I'm wondering.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
BJ, we'd love some cards for your critters.
We could trade them.
Absolutely.
I'd like to, before we get into the questions, I would like to thank Tiff and Karini and everybody else who stopped by and just to say hello and
Thank you.
said they were going to
so
leave
much.
the stream open here or there, and just to support, even if you can't stay. Thank you very much for stopping by. Lots of different beasties, DJ Critter says.
Excellent.
So you guys
I want a
have
list.
to.
Give me the list. You can email me the list. That's all good. I just want to know. I'm just curious.
In case you don't know, his email is
Me at denverstevo.com.
there. You go.
So,
All right, so Steve, do you want to grab the questions? Do you want to comment? Chad, do you want to say anything before we go into the questions or the comments?
I'm good right now.
It's a lot of information to process,
Yeah, of course.
to put through the 10x machine, lifestyle machine.
that's
I
right.
like
And
that
again,
there's many more
I will
options
clip
than we
them.
thought.
Yeah, and I will clip them onto my channel. Probably do at least 2 or 3 videos throughout the week, and like I do. So, any more clarification, hop onto my channel, and go through them. I'll probably again do like 2 or 3 videos that'll be up
I'll
after
definitely
Sunday.
check them. I
Nice.
definitely want to
Okay.
check them out later because I missed, had to leave a couple times here. Because for me, particularly, is very, still very subtle. And like you said, it's up for debate. There's no ultimate definition, right? It's still evolving and all of that, and different people have different opinions. But the subdivisions, especially of agnosticism and atheism and all of that, and then that was very interesting. Not looking to have a final solution to that. But why do I hear myself? Anyway, yeah. So that for me was one of the is one of the hardest things to grasp, I think.
Hmm?
But
I
very
think we need to resolve religion today, right here.
Oh
We
yeah,
need-
absolutely.
We need to
That's what-
determine what the one true religion is, and
Mhm.
Scientology.
all others are wrong. Right? Yeah, that's
Scientology.
exactly that's the point.
For God, yeah.
Joe, before we
What?
dive into questions, anything from you?
I guess the only thing I wanted to clarify was the thing about the robes. I think Mark might have thought I was joking, but it was an aesthetic choice because it was like the cheapest dye. I think it was saffron or something. So yeah, that wasn't a joke, but I can see why it might.
Oh,
have
which
seemed
one?
like
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Joe.
About the Theravada robes.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
The cheapest
And you said
dye,
you
right?
practiced-
Okay.
yeah.
And I'm gonna
I
pull
could
this up.
see
They
that.
said you practiced a little of Theravada.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
okay.
I unfortunately got involved with Diamond Way when I was 18. Between the ages of 16 and 18, I was Theravada. So
So you know a little bit
I know
about that
they-
from experience.
So is Diamond Way
yeah.
Theravada?
no, it's a cult.
Yeah,
But
of course.
it claims to be Tibetan, but it's run by
Oh, okay.
it's founded by a Danish man in the 1960s who came back from drug smuggling in India and then decided to found this. There's a whole thing about it on Marilyn's channel. I don't want to
Mm.
kind
what
of
I-
overshadow this, but there's a whole
From what I
But
understand,
Diamond
from
Way
what you
claims to be Tibetan Vajrayana, but it's not. It's a cult.
Yeah, I was gonna say they claim to be Buddhism. They're Buddhist, like Ron Hubbard is a scientist.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
So LRH, if you're still in the chat there and you're curious, swing on over to Marilyn's channel and check out her interview with Joe. So you'll get the
Two
full
parts.
rundown.
Yes, 2 parts.
Get the rundown series. Yep.
Yes. Otherwise, you can go fuck yourself, I believe was the other statement.
I thought you were going to say that LRH should team up with Olenidao and they should found a cult together. Anyway,
We can do that
that's
too.
not it.
We can do that too. Really quick, NBGS TV, another sub for Mark. Here's for comparing religions.
Oh, thank you so much. Woohoo.
And somebody's
Somebody
at the
has
Thanks
door.
to you.
Yep. Well, at least he muted the right thing.
Right. Oops.
Nasty
I'm at
Nathaniel.
this one.
Nasty
Seneca.
Nathaniel's in the chat. Hey, Nate.
Oh, hey.
Nasty Nathaniel was just in. I
wow.
believe he's doing some stuff in Denver here, and we may have an opportunity to to connect up here this next week. So looking
Well,
forward
that's
to
cool.
it. Yeah.
Hope you get
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. I just, I don't know. I just want to, stand there with a camera and
Go to
prove
the
people.
Denver org.
The
see if
Denver org's
anybody
never,
comes out.
there's nobody there, but
That's why, go do an A1 audit and see if anybody shows up, and then you say, I want to join Scientology, and then not really. Just
me,
kidding.
just me and Parker Osman. That's right. Here's a comment from our friend Jenna from Cali. Hey Shiva, can I sleep with you tonight? Okay. That would make sleeping with Stevo a little jealous, but we'll take it.
I was
Is
confused if
Shiva
she
the
meant-
Destroyer?
He is, yes. He's the destroyer. Destroyer of
Excellent,
worlds.
excellent.
I was
Yeah.
confused if
That's
she
Girls-
actually
girls
meant
like bad
Stevo
boys,
or
right?
Stevo.
Yeah.
What's that? Girls
Yeah.
like bad boys, right? So
Mhm.
go with the destroyer.
Yeah, you don't
But I
want
was
the
confused
maintainer.
if she meant Shiva
The
or if she
creator.
meant Stevo and that was a typo or an autocorrect or something. Maybe she meant Stevo and her autocorrect said Shiva.
I
Or maybe she's
autocorrect.
calling you Shiva.
I autocorrect to Shiva. I am the destroyer. Rawr. I don't know what that is. Hey, so I believe Juliana starred this question from Juliana. If you don't believe in a soul, what reincarnates?
Well, that's up for debate because in
No, Siri. Siri
Jainism
was talking.
and what?
Um,
Oh,
sorry, my Siri went off there. Yeah, so
Yeah.
just I don't know what, just air reincarnates? What?
well, no. The concept is called Atman, and so it's different from a soul. And so in the Indian religions, they don't have the Western idea of our soul. It's called Atman. So a part of you will reincarnate or something like this, but it's not like what we would think of a soul, as in a spirit or what floats up to heaven or anything like that. It would just be an essence or something. It's hard to describe, but if you look up what an Atman is, Jainism,
How do you spell it?
I think it's Atman, if I'm not mistaken, or it might be two T's, or one T. And again, it's in the Indian religions of Hinduism, at least in most of the schools, but particularly in Buddhism and in Jainism. So again, when we think of a soul, we probably again think of the Western cultural aspect of a soul, which looks like a spirit. It might look like us, but it's just a metaphysical, spiritual form of us, and it kind of goes on. But an Atman is just a different concept. So it's not exactly the same, but again, there's these nuanced differences. I am not an expert in this stuff.
I'm gonna
The
look
only
it
thing I know is that they're different. Yeah.
I think I have an Atman in
Joe,
front of
Joe.
I think I have an Atman in front of my couch to put my feet on from
Ottoman,
the Empire.
Ottoman. But yes.
Yeah, yes.
GG.
Go ahead, Joe.
But yeah,
Sorry.
sorry, go ahead, Joe. Joe, yeah.
So in Theravada Buddhism, there's this concept of anatman, or like a non-soul or
Okay.
not a permanent soul, and of a
That's it.
non-self. And
Mhm.
it gets complicated, and I can't remember half of it, but yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
so it's
familiar with
Anna,
Anatta.
my mistake. Yeah.
I'm familiar
Whereas I
with the
think
existence of
Atman
the
is more
concept of
the
anatta.
Hindu
so-
idea of a soul, I don't know, or equivalent of a
Mhm.
soul.
Yeah, it comes
Yeah.
from Buddhism, but it also does exist in Jainism, because Jainism is one of those that sort of was again another middle between middles and stuff like that. But again, I know it's hard because when we think of the soul, we think of a very specific thing. We might think of what we were taught from our own Christian perspectives or Jewish perspective or Islamic perspectives, and it's similar in some ways, of course, but then we get into all these different cultural and historical ideas. And so, yeah, an Anatman is probably just better just to Google it because it's heavy. It's a heavy concept. Yeah.
Yeah, I left
But
here
yeah,
on a
it's a good
separate tab to
question.
take a look at later because in my mind
Yeah.
it's all like sort of the same. If when you say Thetan and when you say soul or when you say it's something that is not tangible, But then I understand that the different religions because I talked also, for example, with other ex-Scientologists that told me a little bit about the Thetan, and then I say, oh, but
Mhm.
because the way you develop it throughout the studying of the religion or the practice of the belief or whatever, I don't know if I thought of a soul like as a corporeal thing, but you think like it's an essence. So that's the idea that I have of a Thetan also. But then the other day somebody said, oh, but I think it was Liz Gale that said something about how the Thetan is not necessarily in your head or inside of you. But then at the same time, Hubbard talks about going exterior. So how do you go exterior if you're not inside? So it's very abstract and confusing, all those things, like, of course, Scientology is not the example because their philosophy in itself is not sound. The logic of Hubbard is not sound, and he contradicts himself and whatnot. But still, I think it's interesting to try to understand when he said, oh, they don't believe in soul, but they believe in reincarnation. I'm like, okay, so what reincarnates? What is this essence that reincarnates? Is it just the same thing? You call it something different, or you just have a different belief of what it is? But what is self in a non-self belief?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I cannot answer that simply. What I can say in Scientology, just very briefly, when you're first in Scientology, you are taught that you are not a soul or a spirit. You are the spirit, okay? Or you do not have one, I should say, excuse me. You do not have a soul or spirit. You are one. And then you're taught that if this is you, if your thumb is you, the Thetan's size is the rest of you. So the Thetan, literally, this is scale. So if this is scale, this is you. The rest of your body is your Thetan. But then that changes when you discover you're infested with body Thetans. It doesn't make any sense. The whole point is it doesn't matter because Scientology's whatever. But again, it's complicated and it's hard to explain. And I think going into some rabbit holes maybe on YouTube, Juliana, and on Google in the next week or something. To try to figure out, and get some other perspectives on.
I won't have a lot of time.
YouTube and stuff, Yeah, true. It's a tough one.
But I'm gonna take a quick look at these notions. Joe actually wrote here these two words here. If anybody else is also curious and interested, Anatman and Atman. So the two definitions to look up if anybody's interested. And if anybody had the same question, I did.
So if I'm
that's the one.
No,
so if I'm a bigger person, and me is my thumb, the size of my thumb. Oh shoot, my camera's doing stupid stuff today. I don't know what's going on. I have to figure that out. Sorry. Can you guys still hear me though?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, we can.
Your camera has no self.
My camera has no soul. So if I'm a larger person, does that just mean I have more Thetans inside me, the body Thetans, or I don't know.
I don't know. We didn't get that
Big
far, man.
Big is beautiful. That's right.
It's a good question.
I don't know.
I had one
you
more.
ask someone who did OT because again, you're the thumb, your body's the Thetan, but then you are the Thetan, but no, then there's many Thetans on you, and then of course they're on you because of the volcanoes, and then you put them through drug rehab, and then they're unconscious. Like I don't know.
Once I clear them, isn't that just a waste of space? Like the only bit of me is my thumb. I mean, I'm just
maybe
kind of
your Thetan just takes more space then. Your
You're asking too many questions.
I just feel like I'm wasting this terminal here.
I think your Thetan was like trapped inside. Well, it's not really inside your body, but let's imagine it is inside your body and it's just trapped because of the body. We're not making any sense here because we're thinking physical world when this is not physical world.
This
but
has
if
to
you
make
imagine
sense.
that it is, if you clear your body of body Thetans, your Thetan just has more space to stretch out and relax and enjoy life.
I don't know.
Scientology.
It isn't true for you unless it's true for you, and it isn't true for you unless you've observed it. L. Ron Hubbard.
All right.
The philosopher.
Here's a. I love this. This has been one of my favorite quotes forever, even before this recent Oppenheimer movie. I am become Steve-O, destroyer of worlds. Of course, we attribute that we attribute the modern quoting of that to J. Robert Oppenheimer after building his toys, but it is not. It is not.
Do you know who it is by, or is it like popular?
I don't know. It's from one of the scriptures, right?
It's from a Hindu scripture, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's news to me. Okay.
Yep, I knew he took it from
So the-
somewhere. I just didn't know where.
It's either the main scriptures are the Ramayana, the Vedas, the Upanishads, and the Bhagavad Gita. So we can read through all of them next week, and we'll find the quote,
Yes, we shall. I love it.
including the Rig Vedas.
Oppenheimer studied Sanskrit, and I think that's why he learned that.
Makes
He was
sense.
a polyglot too.
That's cool. Oh,
So Nasty Nathaniel did a First Amendment audit of the Denver org. One staff member threatened to have him arrested for trespassing. I don't doubt. I'm surprised, Nate, that you actually got an employee, because I think every time I and others have stopped by or have been in the area, it's been locked and shut. So you found a good time, but that doesn't surprise me. I look forward to
That's
seeing
why I
that.
told you to do it.
I know. I look forward to
That's how
seeing that though. So
Break them
That's great.
I caught an actual live from Nate last week. He and Denver Metro Audits were down in Colorado Springs, and there was just this whole brouhaha, and Nate went live with it, and it was a good, I don't know, hour and a half of them debating with a security guard who used to be a cop. Anyway, interesting stuff, guys. If you haven't subscribed to Nasty Nathaniel, that's his name. That's the name of the channel. He is an amazing First Amendment auditor. If you haven't, check him out. Subscribe, watch. I mean, I can just sit there and just watch these things, and once they're done, because he's done so many, I can go back and kind of watch them again and go, that guy's stupid. It's fun to watch. And whether it's a restaurant or a government office, or just hanging out on the sidewalk, it's a fantastic. It reveals a lot. I think Nate does a good job about revealing not just a lot about how people know the law, but also just society in general. So
I thought it is awesome when he says, when he's doing something that has nothing to do with Scientology, and then he just looks at somebody random and just says, Scientology is evil.
mhm.
Yeah, that is funny.
Spreading the word.
BJ's Critters just watched a video on Indo-Euro religion origins and the YouTube channel Crackgenford. I don't know that YouTube
That's
channel,
cool,
but
yeah.
I will take a look at it.
Well,
Crackgenford.
Yeah.
CRACGENFORD.
yeah. Thank you very much, BJ.
Absolutely.
good update.
One sec. Here's Jen.
I'm gonna post a link to this channel while you do that. I'm just
Okay. Hey, everyone. A gloomy day, but still great. Still great not to be in a cult. I could nap, read, watch a movie, cuddle with cats, drink cocoa. Wish Osa could too. Yeah, absolutely. You know,
Yeah.
for all those Osa agents watching right now, wouldn't it be fun to just sit on the porch, and whether it's raining or sunny, just read a newspaper, scan through your iPad, play a game, whatever, right? Watch some TV, whatever you want to do.
take a shower with Chad soap.
Take a shower with Chad
Yeah.
soap and not smell like poo. That's absolutely right. That is so true. Yeah. Come join us, Osa. We'd love to have you here. To the former Kirsten Kitano, we love you. Come
Yeah.
join us. Jensel, I thought we got an org, but it turned out to be the Satanic Temple. Whew, yeah. Oh, thank goodness.
Could have really sucked if you got an orc.
Oh my God! Right. Still, the I think of the list, and here's, and I know, here's Satanism or the, I forget which of of the religions that use the word Satan. I forget which one it was, but it was that and Scientology were down at the bottom of the list. I think that makes a lot of us happy.
The Satanic Temple is the one that actually, from what I know, doesn't have anything to do with Satan, with worshiping Satan or anything like
That's
that.
right. Yeah.
Right.
It's more of like a critical thinking. Kind
Yeah.
of
Right.
thing.
I just forget which one was on the actual list. If it was,
It's
I'm sure it was just
it's
straight
the
up
Church of
Satanism.
Satan. Like the Church of Satan, which was founded by Anton LaVey. That
Ah.
actually, from what I understand, is actually like they do worship Satan. But yeah, the Satanic Temple is more, I guess, like a trolling in one sense. But then it became
Yeah,
more serious
It's more
kind of thing.
protest kind
It's,
of thing,
yeah,
and then they became like a philosophy or some
Yeah.
kind of group. But
exactly.
then when you talk about worshiping Satan, you also have to ask yourself, what is Satan?
Mhm.
Because you're thinking about they're worshiping Satan as, the Satan that you think from the Christian perspective, but maybe it's not. I don't know. I'm not claiming, either way. I'm just really based on our everything that we discussed, like your lecture and everything, just made me think like, what do they understand as being Satan? if they
Would that
worship Satan?
be? Wait, I'm trying to remember the prefixes. Would that be ig satanic? Would be what is Satan?
I think it would be
Right.
the last
would-
slide on last week's one, the one with all the goths in it.
Yeah, I had
Anti-something?
misotheism and maltheism. Yeah.
That one,
I
yeah.
missed that one.
Misotheism, maltheism, hatred
Yeah.
of God. But again, you're also asking a Jew about Satan, and we don't have Satan or demons or hell, so I don't know. I have no clue. I don't know why you guys have that and why you think we have it.
Hmm.
That's what I don't understand. Why Christians, and this is not every Christian, but why do you guys think that we're the same? We're not the same, and it's okay.
Because people talk about
know what I mean?
Judo-Christianism. Judo-Christian, so it's like
We just
conflate
we're not the same,
everything
and that's
in one.
okay. Yeah,
It
I don't
is.
know.
I agree.
I was going to
I
say,
don't
when you
know.
say
We
we,
don't
don't
have-
include me in that.
I mean, I was raised Christian, but
Yeah.
I don't know what I am. I used to define myself as agnostic, but now I'm not sure anymore.
But
So
still,
maybe
I
it's
mean,
like
yeah,
the-
I mean, yeah.
Muito legal.
I like Ig Satanism. That's a good one. It's actually a really nice one. Do you believe in Satan? I say no. We don't have it. They're like, really? Jews don't believe in hell? That can't be true. I'm like, I've been one my whole life. How would
Yeah,
you know?
it
You ever been to
sucks.
a synagogue?
Yeah, I'm not wrong here,
You
people.
know, I don't know. I don't know.
It really
It's what we would call hashtag minority problems. So when you're in an ethnic or religious minority, and everyone around you thinks the same thing, it's like, no. Anyway,
yeah.
soapbox down.
The whole hell thing, that being raised Christian, even though I was raised, I would say mild or moderate Christian, because I was never in a fundamentalist group or anything like that. I was raised Catholic, but even wasn't like I only started going to Sunday school and I wanted to. I never did confirmation, but I believed in it. Like I grew up with that. I went to Catholic schools and all of that, and even though I've always believed, I don't know. I was going to say I never believed in a punishing God, but I believed in hell. I believed in the devil. I believed in and then that damages you, and that's mild. So I can't even begin to imagine the kind of damage that fundamentalist beliefs do, and the kind of things that we see, like the 8 passenger thing now, that crazy Mormon lady who's involved with the woman from 8 passengers. I heard the other day the interview with her niece in the Mormon Stories podcast. It's horrifying what the woman does. She's a horrible person, but I bet you she believes she's, enlightened, and God's speaking to her and telling her to do those. I don't know. It's scary. Those beliefs are really scary, really scary. So yeah, I think
Yep.
it's a form of control. When it has a hell, if you don't do this, you go to hell, because you get trauma. It's a little bit traumatizing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, can't be. I don't have any kids. I don't know if I ever will, but I like to say, like, hopefully I would do what my parents did. So my parents were sort of nominally, because I grew up with Christian and Jewish family, but I was allowed to explore my own faith. That's the only thing I would ever want to do. Just here's all the options. Whatever you want to do once you're age of consent, let's call it that, or the age of thinking, just do whatever the hell you want to do. And, just it's your life. But I was not, I mean, even my Jewish family, they weren't strict. My Christian family wasn't strict. We were pretty right in the middle. And I do feel for people, because I do know that any form of abuse leads to a lot of anger, a lot of hurt, and a lot of resentment. And I certainly know that from Scientology, but I do know that when you grow kids to be afraid and afraid and afraid, and then they act out of rebellion and they do something they're not supposed to do, like, even with the people who grow up in really strict Orthodox Jewish families, will say, like, they were like a teenager and they turned the light on during Shabbat, but nothing happened. Yeah, it fucks you up because, you go from black to white, you know what I mean? And so to me, it's always about middle ground. And I'm just lucky that my parents were like, okay, a little bit hands off on that case. But, I feel for people. I really, really feel for people who grow up in households where they're afraid to do something because they're going to fear punishment from something above. And it's like, I can't even imagine what that's like,
That's what I mean.
At
Like,
all.
I had that in a mild environment. I can't even begin to imagine how devastating it is in a fundamentalist environment, because my minor environment was already destructive enough for some of my beliefs and some, that I had to deconstruct.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Joe, I did not understand. I am apparently not nerdy enough to understand this reference.
You're not
neither.
nerdy enough.
Yeah.
Mark?
Wasting the terminal. Pseudo RF. Scientology?
Am I in the right group here? Am I in the right group here? No, nobody gets this reference. You
What's
clear some
RM?
words.
What's
I'm
RM?
disappointed in you all.
Rudiments?
I am very disappointed in you all. There we go. Okay. Sudo. So this is a Linux terminal, right?
Oh, okay.
Sudo gives you admin permissions. RM is remove or delete. RF is reformat. So there was
Different
a joke
kind of
going round.
nerdiness.
There was a joke going round on internet forums that if someone would ask for help on Linux, sometimes somebody would answer with sudo rm rf / which would basically delete and reformat their whole home drive or their whole root drive. So yeah, when you said
Now
that you
mention it-
terminal, that's what
Now that you mention it, I think I've heard it when I was like a little while ago. Yeah, I
Okay,
think
there we
so.
go.
I'm just not a Linux
It's
person.
funny.
That's beyond. That's trans nerdy, as we like to say. Will be our new coined phrase. Will be
Beyond
trans nerdy.
Or crossing nerdy. One of the two.
And I'm pseudo nerdy with a P.
I'm a DOS man, disk operating system.
Control,
Yep.
command, colon. I love DOS, man. I remember going over to my grandfather's house in the late '80s, and he had an HP that was DOS, and he put in a. Remember Murder She Wrote? They had this. They had a text-based mystery game for Murder She Wrote that was on floppy disks, and he was like, "I'm not going to tell you how to load the game. You got to figure it out for yourself." And I was like, "What?" And I read the box, and there was like a handbook on just to start the game. It was awesome.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah,
Joe,
I
and
remember-
you're
That
saying the
person-
Rubik's Cube. Sorry.
That
And you were
just-
saying the
that
Rubik's
person that
Cube
said-
is hard.
That person that said
invented by a
format
Hungarian.
C, basically what I typed is the Linux version of format C.
Okay.
Okay.
Format C, I would have understood a little bit better than that. Linux for me is just
I remember all. Yeah, and just to Mark's point, I remember all of those games from way back when. Those early games were just the manuals were beasts. Just to how do I move these people around? How do I make stuff happen? And
Oh,
just to have somebody go, do, walk like, hey, I'm going to talk to this person who's just standing here now, do, and do the same thing.
Jessica entered the mansion. She would like to go upstairs to see if there are any clues. You'd
Oh.
write like a whole essay, and then she moves upstairs.
Love it.
Oh my God.
So Jenna from Cali posted a few here. I'm gonna kind of paraphrase because I know between Jenna and Goldie and She had asked me as well. I don't know. There are probably others. On 10/16, on October 16th, Jenna is asking, where I should say, the group is asking for everybody who's a viewer, a contributor, to write one letter to the IRS. The assumption is, with Aaron being kind of the number count, there's about 200,000 of us that are involved. So if we could get everybody to write a letter, even if we could get half of those people to write a letter, it's going to draw attention to Scientology. So with 40 creators and 200,000 of us, we know what Scientology does to these people with their tax-free dollars. We need to tell the IRS, the public knows. So please participate. We have said we care about these people. We wish we could do something for them. We've said I want to help, but I don't know how. And this is a very solid way to do it. So amazing what the first gens, the second gens, the ex-Scientologists have done. So so after this show, Jenna's going to put everything in the comments. So swing on down to the comments. Please participate. Cauley and I don't know who Cauley is. Forgive me. And I will get more information out to you. It's just the same information. We will remind you. So yeah. So we'll get everything kind of put in place to get everybody to help and contribute. And I see 2 hands up, so I'm gonna pick Joe first.
I'm assuming this is for USA people only.
This would be. I'm sorry. That would be.
Okay.
Well.
I mean, there are equivalents in other countries, obviously, but
if it's anonymous, does it matter?
good point.
Probably U.S. citizens should do it, even if you live abroad. I mean, because U.S. citizens live abroad, you still have to pay income tax. So I would say if you're living in the U.S. and a U.S. citizen, or if you're a U.S. citizen living abroad, because otherwise you don't pay taxes to the IRS. So you could write a letter, but at the same time, it's probably better for U.S. citizens. But then again, that's my opinion. I would say maybe Jenna will have a video about it, or maybe someone will do a video about it. Who knows?
That'd be interesting. A video explaining would be good.
Right.
I have another question, but I have a question for Jenna. I don't know if she's still watching, but
not sure.
In the comment section of which video, because there are 5 channels running this right now. So I don't want to be that kind of person, but just if you could tell us which channel, if you just if you're gonna post on Steve-O's.
I guess it's not mine.
Yeah, I think it's Steve-O's because I think that's
Probably
where she was.
Oh,
but
I'm not sure. I will say this: if you see it in your comment section, write a comment back to Jenna asking her if she can include it in the remainder in the other 4. So
maybe
it's not mine.
Or maybe whoever she posted to can copy paste it to the others, or to one other, or to everybody else. Maybe like if she posts to your channel, if you don't mind, you can copy paste to our channels, and then we can pin the comment or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll try to have them
figure it out. I'm not going to be. I'm honestly not going to.
Let's try to have them on all channels. That's what I'm trying to say.
Understandable. I'm just not going to be around most of the day before I swing back in for Xenu Nation. So I do want to make sure that, and I do want to make sure that the message gets out. So understood.
That's okay. If I see it on your channel, I'll copy and paste it to my channel and to Chad's channel, Joe's channel, and Mark's channel.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. Just a reminder. Don't miss it. Join our Kellycopter for live Q&A this Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. I saw the thumbnail, and I would say it looks important. So let's get around and see what Kelly's.
Serious.
What just happened?
I don't know. Nothing happened here.
No, I can't see anything anymore. Hold on, let me try.
Okay. You want me to grab the comment?
Oh, I'm back. Another reminder from Goldie, Karen de la Carriere will join our Poe on the Go this Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Check that out as well.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a good update.
Yeah, absolutely. And
will Chad be there too?
Yep.
fantastic.
Nice.
just so everybody knows, this hoodie that Joe is wearing, because it's cold, is her merch.
Oh, nice.
So show us the hoodie.
And where
People-
can we get merch?
Where do
Where
we
can
get your
people
merch,
get the merch?
Joe?
Sorry, I was muted. From my website, if you email me or any other way you can contact me, yeah, you can get it. This is an extremely nerdy niche music theory thing, so I don't know if anybody wants it, but I just thought I'd mention it because I'm wearing it because it's cold.
And because you have merch, that's always nice to mention.
Because I
Absolutely.
have merch, yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt.
So
If there are 6 of us, and at least one is Osa, it's like playing Among Us.
That's us.
That might be the philosophical question of the day.
Mm.
You've asked a lot of them. This might take the cake. Blown head.
Yeah, a little bit. Where's that emoji right now? NBGS TV says Christianity is full of plagiarized Jewish stuff. Someone posted a Christian hallelujah on YouTube. A word salad so offensive to Leonard Cohen's poetry, artistry and soul. Oh, I haven't. I'm afraid to look for that because
I have no comment.
Mhm.
There you go. Hang on. There you go.
Mind blown. There it is. Then we've got Jen here. Jen says, Church of the Subgenius is trolling through my friend, a minister could marry you. Did I read that wrong? Church of the
Though?
Subgenius is trolling through my friend, a minister could marry you.
That says though. I don't know if she meant through or though.
Is trolling, though my friend, a minister. Though I said through. Is trolling, though my friend a minister could marry you. Okay, that makes more sense. Sorry,
It does.
my bad. ST makes city halls respect religious act hypocrisy for church state by demanding to say opening prayer for meetings. Oh,
I have to. I'm trying
Yeah.
to decipher that. SG Scientology. What is SG? Makes
No,
city
that's
halls
not
respect
Scientology.
religious act. Act for me is the
State?
acknowledge.
Maybe state? I don't know. State makes
Hypocrisy
city
for
hall.
church state demand to stay opening prayer for meetings. I'm really trying to decipher this. But then she said something interesting that Phil Gale was part of the Subgenius. I don't know if that's
suppressive
right.
Yes.
tortoise.
Yeah, that's right.
oh. There it is. No, I get the point though that right, if there's a separation between church and state, why are
Satanic Temple. Thank you.
Satanic Temple?
Yeah.
Okay, city halls respect
Yeah.
religious act hypocrisy for church state by demanding to say opening prayer for me. Oh, okay.
Got it.
Oh,
Satanic
right, okay.
the Satanic
Yeah.
Temple wants to do their own prayers.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're gonna
Yeah.
if you're gonna let Christianity do it, you need to let everybody else do it. Is the point
Perfect.
they're making? I get
Perfect.
it. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, that's
Thank
it.
you. Look at that. Look at that. It takes a member, or it takes a member. It takes a village. Philip Gale was Subgenius. Okay, I did not know that. And then Joe says,
Joe's-
"Well, I guess I figured out why I'm the OBS user."
I
Why
think
are
that
you
was
the
a dig
OBS
at
user?
me
Oh.
because she knows programming.
No, that was because of that Linux reference that no one else
Yeah.
got, even though I'm in the nerdy crew. So
That's what I'm saying.
I
You're
was
we're
like,
different
well, I
types of
guess
nerdy.
there we go.
It's funny.
I like it, but I'm not that. That's what I said. I'm pseudo with a P nerdy. And I tried to use OBS before, but my internet actually has been crashing with OBS. And then what happens is that when I lose my internet connection when I'm streaming on OBS, it just ends the stream. And when the same happens with StreamYard, the stream remains up, so I can reconnect and keep going. So that's a point for StreamYard too. So I have many points for StreamYard, but I would like to use OBS because of the cool
I
things
mean,
you can
you
do
saw
with
that
it.
I had the audio problems when I did the random hour. So these things happen with OBS. It's more you can do more with it, but at the same time, if you get it
Absolutely.
wrong, it will just so
Absolutely.
yeah.
And for what I've been meaning to do with the things that I wanted to have on screen for the study with me, OBS would definitely be cuter and would work better. But I'm just having to make do with StreamYard for now. Thank you, Chad, by the way,
Anytime.
who is wonderfully helping me out with that. And so maybe what I can try to do also in the future is I may have to get a which I wanted to do, but I didn't, not yet. Have my internet be plugged into my computer, and then maybe that would help with OBS. I don't know if that would, but yeah, OBS is cool.
Lori, I'll let Jenna be.
Not me.
Oh,
I don't think it has to be anonymous. No.
wait. Did you guys just walk over
No.
my question?
Yeah, somebody did, not me.
Okay,
I
that's
didn't
all
touch
good.
it.
My hands aren't even on.
It wasn't me. Couldn't have been me.
Maybe it was me.
That was
I don't
just
think
just responding to someone who's commenting on my.
Oh
my
no,
channel.
no, you're all good, Mark. You're all good.
Yeah.
So Lori, the letter probably doesn't have to be anonymous. It's probably just people may be more willing. Some people may be more willing to do an anonymous letter. So it's but I'll let Jenna. I mean, if there's a specific reason that Jenna had an anonymous motivation there, I don't think it's a requirement though. Chad will sign all of his letters. I know that. Here we go. And,
Crayon?
Yep.
and
They
crayon.
will know it's from Clearwater, Chad.
Okay, so then Mask Up asked, "What is your thoughts on Leonardo da Vinci?" And Mark said, "That's a great question. Hard to say, really." It's funny talking for Mark when Mark's right here. Of his time, he was, but in modern times, maybe Einstein is more. Some of da Vinci's
He just basically asked. He basically just asked which one you think was more influential or which one was quote unquote better.
Got
And
it.
it's hard to say because Da Vinci had a lot of those invented a lot of stuff. And I remember back in the day, I had a CD-ROM that had a whole collection of Da Vinci's inventions and all of his stuff. It was really cool. But yeah, it's hard. I mean, it's hard to, I don't know, pick two
Sure.
people from history. Which one's better? Which one's worse? I don't know. Yeah, they were maybe in modern times because relativity has certainly done a lot more for science. But then, Da Vinci made all these awesome discoveries too. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Very hard to say.
Yeah, when you get to them, right, that tier of folk, it's hard to draw the line because they have made such great contributions. If it wasn't for Da Vinci, I was just going to say, if it wasn't for Da Vinci, we wouldn't have Kelly Copter.
How come?
That is true. That is
Right?
very true.
Oh, Da
Right.
Vinci
And
Resolve?
No.
literal
No,
sense.
if we did not have Leonardo da Vinci, we would not have Kelly Copter.
Okay, but what's the correlation?
Leonardo
there
da
that I-
Vinci, his sketches included original diagrams for what became, ultimately the
Oh, okay.
helicopter. So,
Okay.
Well,
so she'd be like Kelly Airplane or something. I
There
don't
was
know.
something else.
Right.
Yeah,
Sure.
the
Got it.
Wright brothers. What did they do?
couple of bicycle mechanics.
Yeah.
Okay. No, we're not gonna get into that debate.
Seen you as the
We're
creator.
getting the Brazilian
No.
foot down.
You know who? Yeah, you know the story. You know the problem, right? You don't talk about the Wright brothers. No. Santos Dumont. Sorry,
The wrong brothers.
Sounds-
More like
Santos Dumont.
Wilver and Orville. Or Wilver and Orville. Wilbur and
Madre
Orville.
No.
Dios.
there was also a guy in Romania named Henry Coanda, who also put a lot of that technology together before the Wright brothers. So,
Then-
Well,
is
I
the
mean, with all due respect, that technology was available 75 trillion years ago when they used it for the volcanoes.
Right.
you know,
There you go.
You always put everything in perspective. Here we are talking about modern times. What am I thinking on the whole track? Why am I not thinking about 76 million years ago? Like, duh. That's the obvious explanation. I'm only thinking within, the past 100 years.
It's too
I
bad
wanna
Xeno
share
didn't
something.
patent his stuff.
Although, yeah, Xenu. Definitely, I'm gonna go with Xenu. But I just wanted to say this here, just in case somebody is not familiar with what I'm trying to say. Can you see this? Can you? What can you see? I don't know how well you can see this.
It's a little small, but it's viewable.
Yeah. How can I zoom in?
I can see the headline.
How can I zoom in? Can I zoom in?
No such thing as Zoom.
I just want to no.
Maybe an OBS there is. Am I right?
Yeah, you are. There. Okay, so it says here several aviators have claimed as the first to fly a powdered airplane. Much controversy has surrounded these claims. It's generally accepted today that the Wright brothers were the first to achieve sustained and controlled powered flight in 1903. Brazil claims its own native citizen Alberto Santos Dumont is the first successful aviator, discounting the Wrights because their flyer took off from a rail and in later flights would sometimes employ a catapult. So,
Wow.
USA,
Sorry.
USA, USA, US.
Brazil,
Santos Dumont,
Brazil.
Brazil.
Yeah,
So there's
It's
this-
like,
on a similar note, Thomas Edison bought a bunch of inventions that
yep.
That he
Tesla
claimed
all the
that
way.
were their own.
Tesla all the
Not the
way.
company.
That's right. Edison got the
But dude,
patent.
I
but
gotta-
it was Tesla.
I gotta root for my country because we don't have a lot of things going on for our self-esteem.
Just
so I'm gonna
just
say
the best
like,
soccer teams in the world.
I was going to say you got
Oh,
football.
fuck soccer. Oh yeah, with the
Feijoada.
So I'm gonna
Disney
say something very Brazilian.
Oh,
Grandes merdas.
Mm.
And
You
I
had,
have no idea how to translate that.
Sim.
Like what? Who cares?
Yes.
Big shit. Like really? No. Okay. Football is just soccer is just like
yeah.
a bunch of men making a ridiculous amount of money and being idolized for play. Okay, they play well. I have enjoyed my fair share of World Cups, but nah. Come on. Okay, I have two comments here that I would like to bring up because I think it's more appropriate if I do. Joni asked, Juliana, is there any single guys hiding around here? So I don't
I'm
know
one.
if there are any single guys hiding around. If you're not hiding though, I don't know. Well,
All
but
the
there you
single
go.
guys. Oh, the single guys.
I might be
All the
hiding.
single
All the
guys.
single
All
guys. All the
guys.
single guys.
I could be hiding, you never know.
So Joni wants to know. So if anybody wants to come out of hiding, all
So
the
yeah, I
single
was going to say
guys.
she's asking for ones that are hiding. That means that would probably be people in chat that are just kind of.
That's why I'm putting it out there because she asked
hiding
it on
back
my
there,
channel. I answered her, I don't know, and then I said, okay, maybe you know anybody who's interested. Find out what
Fine.
I don't know what she. I don't know what
Discriminate
she,
against us single people.
You don't count if you're on
Always
camera.
discriminating.
You're not hiding. So
And there's a comment here from Renee from earlier, which is to Steve-O. So I thought it would
Oh.
be appropriate if I actually brought it up and said, and I, how can I say that
Alex is here.
I
Yeah,
agree with
Pastor
her.
Alex.
Great job on peeling the onion. Because for anybody who doesn't know, Steve-O was Janice yesterday.
I was Janice yesterday.
Janice was not available on our Scientology
Correct,
Stories
Mark.
Peeling the Onion. And then Mark actually, invited Steve-O to be his co-host. And
That's
that was
cool.
very interesting. Mark told the story of his mother and it's her birthday tomorrow, I think. Tomorrow, right? So happy birthday, Mark's
24th
mother.
tomorrow. Yeah.
So
It
there
was.
you go.
It was honestly. It was. So one, Janice is out of town. She's visiting her sister. But that was Mark's story, right? That was the story about Mark's mom and Mark's family and Mark's pains. And he honestly could have done that whole story could have done that whole story himself, and that would have made a lot of sense. But it was an honor to be asked to be the second chair for that live, and it was just, and to be part of that, just to learn about his mom. His mom's a hip lady, I got to tell you, but and she's done a lot, and so she definitely deserves that living tribute. But yeah, it was very special for me to be part of that. So Mark, if you're watching, thank you.
Yes, Joe.
Oh, sorry, Joe.
So someone in the comments called at Peace and Love, great username, said about people that where is it? People that worship Victor Hugo. That's the one.
Yes.
Mhm.
So there is a religion or a belief in Vietnam called Cao Dai. I'm probably mispronouncing that, butchering it. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the
that's
one.
right. Mhm.
Which have like a pantheon of prophets and deities, and one of them is Victor Hugo, and it's because it
Really?
was founded during the time when Vietnam was a French colony, and so
Oh.
there was influence from like the French culture, and so one of their prophets is considered to be Victor Hugo. So I thought that was an interesting thing I'd mention.
He did write the greatest Broadway musical of modern time.
Excuse me. Why do I keep missing the joke?
Yes, he wrote the original story. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, I know.
I just call it The Miserables because I don't like speaking French.
No, right.
Sorry,
Kill me.
Hamilton.
Je ne
Sorry,
parle pas
Lemise.
français.
Hamilton.
Sorry, French, get your nose up.
Je
Oh.
ne parle pas français.
Hamilton. Lin-Manuel Miranda is sorry.
Even more nasals than Portuguese.
Yes.
Oh, French?
Oh.
Oh,
Oui.
yeah, maybe.
Sorry, I mean
Oh.
where.
I don't know if more nasals, but the
French are constantly vomiting. Whoa. Juliana, you may be right.
Nasal cavity and just
Yeah, you may be right though. Hamilton may surpass Les Mis as the greatest, but I think it's going to take a little more time to really develop that.
That's the thing. That's when I say Lin-Manuel.
There's also
Because
Cats.
But when I say Lin-Manuel and I say Hamilton, and especially Lin-Manuel in general, it's because I feel, of course, history is gonna, prove me right or wrong. But I feel like we are living with, we're witnessing, a genius actually
absolutely.
like in the making, and we are aware of it. We're very aware of how brilliant that man is.
He's really reinventing the stage musical, and I think keeping it interesting for a new generation. So
Exactly.
he absolutely is. He's the.
It's like I'm not into hip hop. It took me forever to watch Hamilton because I'm like, oh, but hip hop.
Yeah,
and
I watched it
Hamilton
on
is one of my favorite things in the world.
Yeah, I've never seen it. Like, I didn't see it live, but I watched it on Disney Plus. I got to tell you, I thought it was awful. I thought
Really?
Hamilton on the Disney Plus. I mean, maybe live, but like, I was.
What didn't you like about it specifically?
Being a historian, and I get it. It's not supposed to be accurate, but holy crap, was it just like stop rapping? I get it. Like I don't know what it was. I was like,
okay,
I get it.
That was the whole point.
I know,
but because
but
it didn't like this, but because it didn't like the hip hop in the telling of history.
But it was like after a while, I'm like, I get it. Like I get it. You know what I mean? I understand what's going on, but like, I don't know. It just didn't get to me. And then, of course, a lot of things are overhyped by people. Like, this is the greatest thing you'll ever see in your life. And I'm like, all right. And then I'm like, stop with the hip hop.
Yeah.
Like, that was just me. That's my one opinion.
Expectations have something to do with it. But I'm going to say, the first time that I saw Hamilton, I saw it slowly. I saw it on Disney Plus, too. I'd love to see it live someday. But I saw it slowly because it's a lot. It's a lot of, especially not being my first language. Go ahead, Joe.
Of course.
I'm going to have to bow out soon.
Sure, okay. No worries.
I'm afraid. Sorry. Oh, now you've done the face. Oh, Juliana.
No, we're at about the 2.5 hour mark. It might be a good time. I think I'm going to have to.
I just wanted to. I was just saying.
Not just me.
I would talk more about Hamilton, but we can do that some other time. Do you have to go now, and then we just grab the 2 questions we still have up?
Yeah, like in a minute or so, probably. Yeah.
I don't know. We don't even have to get them, but
No,
it's
no,
up to you.
No, here was one of
up to
them. Jen Sell says, my friend and I found out about the flight thing. We were playing billiards drunk with two incredibly cute Brazilians. The date went down from there. She wasn't even an ignorant American, but French. Yeah, French again. Uh-huh. Mama.
Making me hungry for French fries, am I right?
Oh, no, American fries, my friend. And
Liberty
then Mask
fries,
Up says,
yeah.
hey, what about Liberty Fries? That's right. And what about the Leonardo da Vinci ornithopter? Is that the helicopter? I don't know.
I
Is
have
that
no idea.
the ornithopter?
Me neither. I just thought maybe.
Single blade? I don't know. I'm all for it.
Oh, the single guys. Oh, the single guys. Oh,
I
the
just
single
want to
guys.
say I'm for it. I'm going to be very political. I'm for it.
That's right.
We can get there.
Janice's memory is absolutely incredible, especially for what years something happened. Yeah, Janice is incredible about that stuff. She'll remember, and she's like, yes, and no, that never happened, or oh, that happened 5 years later than that. I mean, I've had the opportunity to I've had a few wonderful opportunities to talk with the two of them, and I love picking Janice's brain, getting whatever information about the early LRH days, the Apollo days, and all of that. It's just fantastic, and
Crazy that she grew up on that boat with that guy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So it's
amazing.
kind of probably a very complex set of
Right.
feelings there.
Hey, and speaking of which, I don't have a link for it, but if you missed yesterday, Apostate Alex. Sorry, I just got tongue-tied there. Who, by the way, has also pointed out he is very single. Apostate Alex he did a wonderful interview with Danielle Chamberlain, Neville Chamberlain's wife. And not the Neville Chamberlain that was once the Prime Minister of England, right? Every time I hear the name, I'm like, he was a Scientologist, really? But no, he's
the guy that gave up Czechoslovakia. Come on.
Yeah, right. But no, this is a different one. So Danielle was on, and she was talking about some of the horrors that she faced in her early years when she was on the boat, and then beyond that when she kind of came back into the Sea Org. So if you get a chance, please, and in fact, not even if you get a chance, make a chance to swing on over. Thank you. Oh, wonderful, Juliana. Yeah, definitely swing on over and check out that interview. I thought it was fantastic, and I only had to stop watching it to go pretend to be Janice for 2 hours. So, and then I got to finish off the last 20 minutes or so after. So anyway, highly recommended. Ladies and gentlemen, for the 14 that have hung with us till the very, very end, thank you.
Thank you.
I have no clue what's going on with my camera, and I hope I can figure out and get that fixed by this evening. But with that, we bid you adieu. Do we have a
I don't have an outro yet.
we don't have an
gotta figure
outro,
that out.
so
Yeah, thank you
Bye,
for
every-
the 2 subscribers. So thank you so much. Now I'm at 51. Thank you.
Nice.
that's
We'll
right.
do the outro like this. So long, farewell.
But dum. We are the nerdy bunch. But dum.
Oh, there you go.
Dum. We are the nerd. Wait, no, I can't find the thing to push. There. Did I do it? Nope, I didn't do it. God darn it.
Shorty got
We
low,
know you
low,
did it, Steve.
low.
What's that?
Filler.
I said we know